to call to order the Auburn, Maine Planning Board November 10th, 2025 meeting, and I will start with the first agenda item, which is roll call to my left.
Ed Barra.
Bob Hayes.
Paul Jacques.
Stacy LeBlanc.
Tim DeRoche.
Maureen Hopkins.
Bilal Hussein.
Alrighty, seeing as we have two absent members, Darren and Riley Bergeron, I will be elevating Ed and Bilal to full membership status with voting privileges. Alrighty, next item on the agenda are the meeting minutes. So at this time, I would seek to have a motion to approve or amend the meeting minutes.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, Ed? You're a voting member? Okay. Motion carries. Excellent. Okay. So the third item on the agenda is a public hearing, site plan 61 North River Road. I will hand it over to staff.
Thank you, Stacy.
You're welcome. And David, if memory serves me correct, this is the one that we're going to table?
Yeah, I'll explain in a moment here.
Okay.
Oops, apologies here. I'm trying to just get us something on the screen for you folks to kind of look at. I'll zoom in on this in a moment, though. Chelsea Lewis has submitted an application for the reuse of an 8,700 square foot commercial building for a pet retail store and grooming service business in the general business district at 61 River Road. Accessory to this use will be a dog daycare service for grooming customers. Again, it's in the general business district. The reason this would even come before you folks is any property that occupies over 5,000 square feet or more is allowed as a special exception, and therefore it needs approval from the planning board. You will hear this evening that they are actually going to ask for this matter to be continued. The project representative is here, but the actual applicant isn't. But they do want to get some input from you folks just to hear if there are any concerns, either from you or the public, and then would ask for it to be continued to the December meeting. I will point out a few things with respect to their proposal. It is immediately adjacent to the river, but they're not proposing any additions to the building or anything of that nature. They're just reusing the site. We'll be making some site improvements to the existing gravel parking lot out there as far as actually reducing the impervious area and improving access by narrowing the curb cut, adding some loam and seed out there. They do expect to have up to 6 employees with grooming capacity up to 20 pets per day, operating 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. There'd be an outdoor exercise area about 40 by 60 on the back side of the building. I can zoom in on this later if we need to. I did note in the application that they needed to provide right title and interest. There was a deed, but there wasn't anything from the applicant. You folks since have in front of you tonight a copy of the lease agreement between Chelsea and the property owner, so we do have right title and interest with respect to the project. Dog daycare services would be accessory to the grooming business, utilizing both indoor and outdoor areas. With that in mind, staff's recommending a condition that the total number of pets using the exercise areas at any given time shall not exceed 20. Some of this might sound familiar to you folks. I've been on the board for a while. It sounds like we've had proposals before with kind of dog daycare operations and whether or not they were allowed. This one isn't necessarily a dog daycare. This is actually just allowing dogs to stay there after they're groomed. In the past, there's been a question of whether or not that constitutes as a kennel. We don't believe it is constituting as a kennel because they're truly keeping it accessory to the grooming business. You bring your pet there, at whatever time, you leave your pet there for the duration of the day for that matter. You come back, you pick up your pet. It's not necessarily an operation where I'm going there every day to drop off my dog for daycare purposes, unless you were getting your dog groomed every single day. That is it, other than there were some, again, staff was recommending the condition that the dog daycare portion of this is accessory to the primary grooming and retail business with a total number of pets using the exercise areas indoor and outdoor at any given time not to exceed 20. Travis Netto from Platts Associates, he's representing the applicant tonight, and I believe he has a few comments or questions for maybe you folks, and as well, if you can give him some input, but again, they're looking for this to be continued to the December meeting.
Absolutely, yep. Board, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Travis Netto. I'm with Platts Associates Architects, representing Higgins Point and Tim Millett, the property owner, and also Maine Bark and Lounge, the prospective tenant. Appreciate your consideration of a motion to continue to our next meeting. One of the items that we are been hammering out, and David's been a fantastic partner in trying to bring this project together in a way that's good for the city, but also good for the owner and the tenant. It's a little tricky as far as a conditional use and an accessory use, so we want to make sure that we have those strategies baked into our development proposal, and especially to the extent of the operations. You know, I think this is a project. While there's very little site work, no building addition, and a lot of the exterior aspects of the project are to remain as is existing, I think that operations aspect to this development is an important piece, and this would give us some more time to consider that and then offer to the board a more comprehensive development package for you guys to vote on. So looking forward to the opportunity to take on some questions or comments, areas of concerns. Generally, the site is along the river in a sort of deep into a commercial block of buildings. There aren't any residential uses nearby, so it makes a pretty good fit for this type of use. The parking area has been used as a laydown for the city's ongoing work with the utilities up and down the road there. So there's a fair degree of reconstitution of that surface that needs to occur now that the activities are sort of waning. And I understand that's happening now. As part of that, what I'm trying to bake into these drawings here is a narrowing of the entrance drive and removal of any parking and pavement areas within the setback zone, the right-of-way setback. Also, speak briefly on the exterior development. So there'll be a fenced-in, privacy-fenced outside exercise area. This exercise area is envisioned as being partitioned in some way to allow for some sorting of the animals so that we can do some crowd control, for lack of a better word. There'll also be some interior areas dedicated to exercise or containment. The idea of providing multiple experiences for the animals, but also it allows us to segregate animals that need to be segregated to have effective crowd control, sound control, and management. The dumpster location is envisioned at the back of the lot, screened from the parking area with a privacy fence that'd be anchored to the ground. All the fencing will be concrete anchored to the ground in full privacy to 7 feet. That dumpster enclosure would also have a gate system on the front of it, so it will be completely screened from the street. The dog enclosure or pet enclosure is also has some bushes and landscaping to help couch the impact of that fencing on the surrounding context. But again, there's an existing building on the site towards the water off the street. That's not part of this project. This project is exclusively focused on the building that's along North River Road, and adjacent tenants are largely commercial in nature, and but we're still looking to offer a bit of screening to that fencing and the dumpster enclosure. Parking is going to be relatively in the same area. We're including some handicap parking spots adjacent to the entrance of the building. We don't envision that parking field being used in its entirety, So there should be plenty of parking, and also the dimensions are such that you could turn around within that parking area, both cars and delivery vehicles, and also the dump truck can take the trash back in within the lot and then enter the right-of-way with a forward approach. So there'll be no backing into the right-of-way. I guess that's pretty much it for the exterior components. And I guess if there's any questions from the board, happy to answer them. And
Does the board have any questions for the applicant? I'm sorry?
I have questions, but I think they're more for staff.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Alrighty.
great, thank you.
So staff, I hear we want a motion to continue, though we should probably still have public hearing, correct?
I'm sorry?
So I hear there's a motion to continue?
Correct.
Okay, but we should probably still have public hearing.
Yeah, I think so. That's what the applicant is requesting.
Okay, all right, so at this moment, I would seek a motion to open up public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor? Excellent. So at this moment, if you would like to come forward to the podium, you can state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes for any public comment. All right, seeing none, I would seek a motion to close public comment. Do
So moved.
you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Excellent, motion carries. Okay, questions for staff?
I heard no residential nearby. Can staff quantify how far this proposal is from the nearest residence?
Maybe. This is the structure that we're talking about right here. Put it in context, this is Cumberland Farms over here, Gippers is over here, so the nearest residential use, I'm guessing is this property here, 2-family. So if you're looking for actual distance.
Is this the old boatyard down behind Cummins?
Yeah, exactly. The last use of this property actually was a marijuana grow. And yeah, this is where the boat launch is right here.
All right, so there is a residence not far, because I'm just thinking as a homeowner myself, I don't know how happy I'd be hearing up to 20 dogs barking about, so I'm just trying to get that question answered.
400 feet, approximately.
All right, thank you. And my next question, what are the differences, you mentioned earlier, doggy daycare, and that staff doesn't see this really qualifying as that definition, although from the gentleman that spoke, I hear an awful lot of preparation being made that sounds an awful lot like a doggy daycare.
Yeah.
So between this proposal and what a true doggy daycare is, what would the differences be?
That may be a question for the applicant, but from staff's perspective, we don't have a use category in Auburn that allows a dog daycare. The next closest use is a kennel. And even then, when you look at the definitions of kennel, it's not a perfect match because it talks about the boarding of dogs. Looking for the actual definition there. We allow kennels in one zoning district, a low-density residential district, and they need to have at least 3 acres of land. Apparently, in the past, we've had a couple of projects come before the planning board where it was accessory to some other type of operation. The board made that finding. The way I'm suggesting we could be comfortable with this, or that the board may be comfortable with this, is to say that it's accessory to what the use is out there, which our understanding is a grooming business and a retail operation. A doggy daycare or other dog daycares that we're aware of are just that. You drop off your dog, there isn't necessarily it's not accessory to anything. It's the primary use of that property. I drop it off as many days as I want. I pick it up in the morning. It's no different than maybe a daycare for children. Unfortunately, we don't have that use category. So how do we try to make something work here? And again, our understanding from talking to the applicant was that she was initially looking to do this accessory to the grooming operation. So that's why we suggested putting limitations on it as well, so it doesn't become something else out there.
Okay, thank you. All right, thanks.
All right, any other questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, the one that came up, I don't know, last year or something, was right in the middle of a neighborhood, so it was quite a bit of a different location. And certainly the noise probably would have been an issue, and it doesn't seem like that here. Because the dogs will be on the riverside. It's all open space. And then it's commercial businesses, for the most part, surrounding it. So I don't think it would be a nuisance to anybody. And the kennel thing kind of implied boarding or selling pets. It's not clearly written. It could be, I think, more clearly written.
There's language in the, it's not in the zoning ordinance, it's actually in the chapter 8, and it talks about applying to a group of persons, corporations engaged in the commercial business of breeding, buying, selling, or boarding dogs, or operating a veterinary hospital, providing a state kennel license is obtained. None of those things are what this person's looking to do.
Right.
Go ahead, Ed.
David, I don't really think it makes a difference if you call it accessory. It's not allowed. It is a kennel. You can have 20 dogs out there. There's nothing in your proposed motion that would limit the dogs to those that have been groomed. I don't, the ordinance in the general business zone, it allows animal hospitals and pet shops, but no kennels. And you got 20 dogs in a 40 by 60 enclosure. That's a kennel. I don't care if they're there for a day or a week or a part of a day. Seems to me that if we're going to allow this under the guise that it is accessory, we have to be absolutely sure that it's not a kennel, because just because something's accessory doesn't mean you can do it if it's prohibited in the zone. So I'd be looking the next time this comes before us for a much stronger condition, and I'd like to know that it is somehow going to be enforceable without being a burden to the city, that the business practices are going to be such that the only dogs that are there are dogs that are being groomed.
I think staff shares your concern as far as how do we do that and how do we make sure that actually occurs.
I guess just as a follow-up, it would seem that one condition would be no overnight stay for sure. And I guess it'd also be somewhat of a function of how many pets could be groomed during a day or is anticipated might be groomed during a day. Because I may set some limit on the number.
All right, any other questions, concerns for staff? Go ahead.
I just want to make one other thing clear. I think the ordinance ought to be amended to allow for this sort of thing, because in my experience, and as you've described it, there aren't so many true kennels as there are combinations of kennels and grooming and what have you, but this is a great site for this, I think. There's a house that's almost 400 feet away, and that's it. You know, it's probably one of the best places that you could do that, but I just don't think it's allowed in that zone. And if we're going to thread that needle somehow, I think we're going to have some significant wording in a condition that allows it.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, Ed, where if it seems like something that would fit in that if we were to make a change to something, it would fit in that special exception category, then we could determine whether it was a nuisance to the neighborhood or something like that, and then there's a little bit more conditional approval. But if it's not allowed, it's not allowed.
All right, any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, I would seek a motion.
So moved.
I need a motion. Sorry.
Motion to, motion to postpone to December meeting for further discussion.
Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Any discussion of the motion? Was that the correct motion?
That's fine.
Okay, just making sure. I know we've got some people that are very particular about motions.
I think it's clear that
All right, so then all those in favor? Excellent, motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is public hearing site plan subdivision review, 7 and 9 Fern Street. I will hand it over to staff.
actually. So Dirigo Architectural LLC, on behalf of Woo Lake Street Property, has submitted an application to develop 2 previously vacant lots at 7 and 9 Fern Street into a 5-unit townhouse apartment. These properties are adjacent to Lake Street School and will share the existing driveway to the site. The board may recall that this item was withdrawn at the September 9th meeting due to negative public neighborhood sentiment towards the project. So the applicant has now come back. You'll recall that this project is in the T42B Form-Based Code District. They've since submitted their application, and they have met all the requirements of that district. Last time they were asking for a number of waivers, and they've tweaked the plan so they don't need any waivers from the form-based code. A couple things to note is that there will be a retaining wall. There was some discussion about that last time. There'll be a retaining wall approximately 1 to 5 feet in height, parallel to the residential properties on Fern and Holly Street. And on top of that wall, there'll be some 6-foot fence and landscaping. Each unit has its own parking space along with a guest parking space. My comments noted that they needed to provide evidence of financial capacity, but that is actually in your application, so you can disregard that comment there. Since the project was withdrawn, the applicant has provided some additional thought, and they've noted in their application that over the past year, they've explored different options with the city. And while they initially proposed a daycare, they felt was well suited for the site. Neighborhood feedback showed a strong opposition to that use and a preference for housing that fits in that area. In response, they've developed a 5-unit townhouse proposal that provides home ownership opportunities and complements the scale and character of the neighborhood. The other change I should mention is that last time they were proposing this as a condominium development. They've since come back and chosen to do it as an apartment complex. They can probably speak to the issues with that, but from a simple perspective, it's a lot easier legally with respect to association documents, easements, and things of that nature versus doing an apartment out there. Staff doesn't really have any other concerns with this project. The only condition we're recommending is that prior to recording and issuance of building permits, that the final plans be recorded at the Androscoggin County Registry of Deeds, reminding you folks that this is a subdivision because it's the creation of 3 or more dwellings. So they've met both the site plan review criteria and the subdivision criteria. Tom Poirier is here on behalf of Dirigo, and he can walk you through the project and answer any additional questions.
Okay, excellent. So the applicant can come forward. Thank you.
Good evening. You have all of this information in your packets, but I thought I would just give a brief overview of what we've proposed to do here and then welcome any comments or questions that come after that. This is a combined plan with the Lake Street School project, which is also part of Mr. Wu's development plan, property he acquired from the city, along with 7 and 9 Fern Street. The upper right-hand corner is a playground, which is in the process of being reconstructed, modernized, and available to the public. These townhouses certainly felt like condominiums when we first conceived them, but afterwards we thought, geez, you know, it probably would be a lot simpler with a common ownership and a common management company, just to have the whole corner here be just rental units. And if in the future there was a desire to convert these to condominiums, then we would be back to do that. But from a sort of a bird's eye view, this is the overall plan, residential development of this corner. This is the proposed subdivision plan with the at the intersection of Lake and Fern Street. The dark gray box is 7 and 9 Fern, which we're proposing to annex into the 80 Lake Street lot, is to be one lot under common ownership. Also helps with sharing services, common areas for screened trash services and other things, and maintenance of the common driveway and sidewalks. Utility plan, we collect the rainwater from the pervious area generated by the building itself, as well as most of the driveways and the patio areas. That all comes to the rear of the building, the rear being farthest away from Fern Street, into a focal point for filtration and stormwater quality and quantity control, at which point we propose to have it discharged into the city stormwater system through, in Fern Street, through some new piping and structures. And the utility corridor is pretty busy there on the back through the patio area, but that's where we propose to bring in water and sewer and electricity into the units. These will be sprinkled units, so there'll be fire protection maintenance. Keeping the landscaping plan fairly simple, we do call for street trees to be replanted. There is one that sure would like to save right in the middle there if we can. Just don't know if it's gonna with the construction, but we propose to replant that, and then just some common indigenous low maintenance type, nice looking shrubbery in different areas to maintain the buffer with our neighbors, so that the development is just a visual and a bit audible screen. Along the plan south of the building, at the bottom of the building, that brown area, we proposed a mulched planting bed with a privacy fence atop a fairly short retaining wall that's just there to function to help with the stormwater management. And then the buildings themselves, just to go to the renderings, we tried to put something that aligns with the current architecture of that neighborhood, something that definitely meets the intent of the form-based code, and which is small to medium structures with good pedestrian walkability, stoops, what we feel is an addition to a great neighborhood. That's it.
All right, any questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing, oh, okay, perfect.
You're Mr. Perkins?
Tom Perkins, yes.
Thank you. So the property description says it's 1.9 some odd acres.
Can you guys
but
hear Ed okay? His mic's a little bit.
The property description, thank you, says that it's 1.9 acres, more or less, but the project description says that it's 2.33 acres. Is there some land that we don't have a deed to that is part of this, or is one of those numbers not correct?
There's no hidden land anywhere. One of those numbers is
And the conveyance from the city to Mr. Wu, you quoted some language from that conveyance, and I gather there's probably a document of some sort that might expand on this, but it said that the property would be developed in a form to benefit the local community, such as a daycare center, recreational space, a green space, park, or other such development as the seller and purchaser shall determine as part of the planning board approval. Do we need anything from the city saying that the council is content that this is an appropriate use of the property?
So, so my understanding is administration and the council did discuss this in August, and they did agree that housing is a community need and appropriate for the development of this site.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we open it up for public comment? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to open up for public comment.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, excellent. If you're a member of the public and you'd like to come forward to specifically speak about this project, please come to the podium, state your name, you have 5 minutes, and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Vial from 10 Fern Street, right across this project on the other side of the road. I'd like to mention that last month this room was full of my neighbors ready to speak against this project. Unfortunately, it looks like many of them were not able to show up tonight, but with very little difference with the project from last month, I believe their statements would be the same tonight. I understand and support Auburn's effort to add housing, but I don't believe this proposal meets the standards of Auburn zoning ordinances 60-1277 and 60-1336 because it fails to protect the neighborhood character, the surrounding property values, and the quality of life of the current people living in this area. Currently, Fern Street, it consists primarily of single-family, owner-occupied homes with consistent scale, setback, and architecture. The proposed 5-unit townhome structure, it introduces a density and building form that is not compatible with what is there currently. This 2-story attached design, the shared access, and the compact spacing will significantly change the visual appearance of the street and replace the traditional feel with a denser, multi-family character. A shift like that will lead to diminished property appeal and slower appreciation for the neighboring homes, which is contrary to the ordinance intends to preserve the property values. When we consider this project together with the redevelopment of the nearby Lake Street School site, this project will convert what is a quiet, low-density block into a multi-family corridor. The proposed configuration will increase local traffic, turning movements and visitor parking overflow onto Fern Street and Lake Street. Even if traffic studies suggest an acceptable level of service, the residents will experience a meaningful increase in congestion and reduced safety for the pedestrian, especially children walking or biking in the area. And with the new playground being introduced soon, there will be an increase of children in the area. A quieter, low-traffic street is part of what gives this neighborhood its appeal and stability, and the project will erode that environment. The proposed townhomes are positioned within an extremely short distance of the side and rear properties line. With upper-story windows and patios, they are oriented directly toward existing homes. The layout will lead to loss of privacy in backyards and living spaces that are currently shielded. And although the applicant proposes a full cutoff exterior lighting, even those light fixtures will increase nighttime illumination into neighboring properties. The clustering of 5 units and driveways will generate additional noise from vehicles and daily activities, diminishing the quiet enjoyment of surrounding homes. For these reasons, I respectfully request that the planning board denies or require major modification of the 79 Fern Street proposal. At a minimum, I urge the board to please require a significant reduction in density, less units on the site, improve buffers for privacy for the existing homes, and design revision that would respect the surrounding single-family pattern before granting approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, public comment is closed. Yep. You know what's next.
I didn't catch the young lady's second sighting. I know she said 60-1277. Could you tell me what the second sighting you gave us was?
It was 60-1336.
1336. Thank you.
Okay, any questions for staff?
I have one. The staff report says that the traditional neighborhood district allows townhome residential uses by right. Do we differentiate between townhomes and other multifamily dwellings? Is there a specific definition of townhome, or are we saying that multifamily dwellings are allowed here?
We allow single family, we allow two family, we allow multifamily. We don't necessarily make a distinction specific to townhouse, but it would fit under the multifamily definition.
Thank you.
Maybe just a question, refresher. How many apartments are actually into the old schoolhouse itself?
I believe it's 10? 12, excuse me.
And the retaining wall that's being put in, what's the height of the retaining wall?
1 to 5 feet.
David, I just want to clarify something. The speaker mentioned section 1336. Is the application that's before us a special exception? Is that applicable?
No, I will double check.
Thirteen 1336 deals with special exceptions, and I just don't want to dismiss it if it is indeed a special exception.
So I think we're in a T4 2B, I believe?
Correct. T42B.
And multifamily is a permitted use. If it was a special exception, there'd be an S like you see here. And I'm taking your word for it, Ed, that section that was referenced as special exception.
Yes, thanks for taking my word for it.
Yes, 1336 is special exception.
have one other comment. I did find it interesting that the speaker, impact on property values, that's obviously a complicated subject and one usually subject to some expert testimony, but I think a homeowner is entitled to offer that opinion. We have a provision under the subdivision review standards, which is a little oddly worded. Says a project will not adversely affect the character of the surrounding neighborhood and will not tend to depreciate the value of property adjoining the neighboring property under application. I don't know what tend to depreciate actually means, but does the applicant have any obligation to affirmatively demonstrate that a project such as this doesn't have an adverse impact on the surrounding property values?
Certainly, the applicant should be speaking to the criteria of the ordinance, including those of the subdivision. I guess if the board is looking for some additional evidence of some sort to say that this isn't going to have some type of depreciative value on the adjoining properties, I guess that could be asked of them. I'd have to check. I tend to think, and I could check, I believe these criteria are the same as the state subdivision criteria. So I don't know that they're unique to Auburn, but not that makes a difference, but I could check on that as well.
I just think that it is a standard, it appears to be a standard in our ordinance, and I'm not sure in my brief time here that I've had any developer touch upon that question, and I think it's really what drives people to come to these meetings, because they're concerned about effects of a project that are going to adversely affect their properties and therefore their property value. So I guess I'd like to see a little effort put into it by applicants to address that criteria in the future. I don't think this project necessarily has an adverse impact on the neighborhood. It's tough to make that argument when it's a permitted use. So I guess by definition it supposedly fits.
The speaker brought up privacy concerns. Could you share what linear distance from these buildings to the nearest existing residences are?
Well, and then I would extrapolate upon that, and then the other houses and surrounding houses around that as well. It's a highly dense area to begin with, so it's not like.
I understand your point, but I'm just she brought up a valid point, and I just thought we would cover that.
Where the heck am I? Doing a good job navigating right now. Gets me. This is the old Lake Street School. That's 12 apartments. This is where the 5 townhouses are going. This is a residential use right here.
So they'd be going where that playground is that correct?
No.
No, the playground is right here, and this is where the townhouses would be built. So the nearest abutting use is this property right here, and I guess this property here as well.
I don't mean to interrupt you, David. Maybe others can say. Are you using a cursor? Because I don't see it.
Oh, you don't?
No. I mean,
Yeah.
I know what you're
I don't know
pointing
what the
at.
problem is. Point that out, Ed. So, this is the property in question, 5 townhouses here, Lake Street School, existing playground, nearest residential use. This is everything's residential out there, right? So, I can measure this out, but I mean, certainly less than 10 feet.
Thank you, but that conforms with the pattern that's already in that neighborhood of a pretty densely packed neighborhood already, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Paul's just saying that because he grew up there, that's why. All right, any other questions, comments, thoughts? I think we all know what's next if there's no additional conversation. We have anyone that would like to make a motion?
Not a motion yet. I guess I just asked, do we have a little more description? We talked about the elevation, both of the retaining wall, 1 to 5, and then we have a 6-foot fence, and then we have plantings. Could we just have a little more detail? I'm trying to read the small print. My glasses aren't helping me at this point. With respect to the plantings that are going to be put actually on the back side of the fencing towards the housing behind.
Tom, I don't want to steal your thunder here. Yeah, please.
So this, the idea behind this landscaping is so that the abutters are, the land's going to feel like it always has. So we're going to have the trees finished to a fence, mulched area, plantings on top along the fence, and then the retaining wall actually steps down here so that we could make, the form-based code required us to be so many feet within street grade. So we had to, part of the changes we did since our first application was to drop the elevation of the building, tuck it in. It actually kind of goes into that subtle grade a little bit. So the idea here was that it would just, aside from there, now there's sort of a treed lot. It's going to be developed, but we create that kind of distinctive line there, so it kind of still feels private to the neighbors.
I understood the Fern Street side, you actually moved the entrance right to the Fern Street side, so it looks like the front of a house, right?
Yes.
There are several other, I don't know if several is the right word, but other rental properties in the area. There's not several, but there are other rented units.
And just to kind of carry back, and could we go to the rendering by chance? I just want to, yep, one more down if you would. So it's probably hard to see unless you zoom in, but because we wanted to do just that, we wanted to preserve and fit into the neighborhood, there's upgraded finishes here. There's extra roof lines, there's board and batten siding with some stone trims around the bottom. So the effort here is not to, we could probably do the same building form square footage wise that would meet the intents of the requirement, that would not be nearly as architecturally appealing to look at. And the other thing I'd like to point out is we treated all 4 sides of this building. So it's not just the street frontage and then you've got the back of the house that's plain. I mean, from any angle, we strive to really make this a nice looking property in addition to the neighborhood.
David, do we have, does the ordinance require a developer in an instance like this to maintain the fence, to maintain the plantings, to replace plantings that die? And if so, is it a reasonable mechanism for the city to enforce?
If it's on an approved site plan, then they're expected to maintain and keep those improvements in place. If they are damaged, die, whatever the case is, we can take enforcement action then and say that it's no longer in compliance with what they got approved from the planning board.
You think that you can enforce that even though it's not a condition? Just simply because they show plantings on a plan, they have to do more than just plant them?
I do. I think you folks are approving a specific plan that's in front of you that has certain amount of improvements on it. No different if this building isn't built the way it is, that's contrary to the planning board's approval. The retaining wall, the landscaping out there, they're getting approval specific from something that you guys approved.
And that's all projects, like not just a specific
Absolutely.
project. That's what I thought. Okay.
You're suggesting we have another proposal later on this evening, and they've given us a rendering of what one of the 69 houses would look like? You're going to tell me that they're all going to look like that?
I think the applicant's going to tell you that the majority of them out there are going to be designed to look like that. But in that case, I guess to your point, Ed, they don't have to meet design requirements in that zoning district, so they could deviate if they wanted to. This district, there's specific form-based requirements that have to be met.
Thank you.
Ed, they do address your question on page 6 of their proposal, where they will assume perpetual maintenance of private drives, utilities, landscaping, stormwater facilities, as submitted in the draft declaration.
Thank you very much. Well, the draft declaration was actually probably a carryover to the one that was going to be a condominium project, and it's not going to be that anymore. That doesn't matter. They're still obligated.
Correct.
All right. Any other questions, comments, motion?
I make a motion that the proposal meets the requirements of sections 60-1277 and 60-1359 and approve the application and site plan submitted by Dirigo Architectural Engineering LLC on behalf of Woo Lake Street Property LLC for a 5-unit townhouse apartment development at 7 and 9 Fern Street. The proposed project has met the standards pursuant to Chapter 60, Article 4, Division 14, Form-Based Code, Article 16, Division 2, Site Plan Review, and Division 4, Subdivision.
All right. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you have any discussion of the motion?
Yeah, I'm seeing, I know staff looks like they wanted a condition of approval above it.
Certainly, you folks can take that into consideration. It's kind of belt and suspenders on our part just to make sure plans get recorded
Right.
before any activity occurs.
I'm okay with it, but.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion? All right. Motion carries. All right. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing site plan subdivision review for 530 and 538 Poland Road. And I will hand it over to staff. What? I already elevated it. So I'd have to move one of them down and then elevate you. I mean, I can.
You can.
Okay, Riley. I will.
Where's the site? Sorry, folks, I'm just trying to get a site plan up for you. All right, Teradyne Consultants LLC on behalf of Jonah Chappelle and Kyle Romick have submitted an application for 3 townhouse-style multifamily buildings with 4 units each for a total of 12 units at 530 and 538 Poland Road. This property is in the T42B district as well, and access will be provided via a shared driveway. This is the same site that was initially a 4-lot subdivision that you folks looked at on September 9th when they were doing 2 multifamily structures with 4 units at that time. You may recall they didn't meet the form-based code requirements, but they got some feedback from both you folks and the abutters, They've since come back with a redesign of that project. Your application, we can pull it up if necessary, but they've designed it so that the structures and the placement will meet all the requirements of the T42B district. And they're also taking advantage of utilizing a private shared access drive, minimizing the number of curb cuts, and then they can measure their setbacks off of that. Similar to the last development, this is a subdivision because it results in the creation of more than 5 dwelling units out there. The private access drive will be 24 feet wide, about 350 feet long. They've met stormwater requirements per both the city and DEP requirements. With last time, there's about 1,900 square feet of wetland alterations occurring. That's actually shown on the plan up there, which I've been using my cursor all night and you can't see. But it's that shaded area, kind of like 12 o'clock on the site plan there, of 1,900 square feet of alterations. They're also proposing a filter strip with a perforated under drain along the northerly property line to keep drains from impacting abutters, and that may improve conditions as well. You may recall the neighbors on the northern side there have concerns about wetlands or wet areas. You can see some of the wetlands actually go on to the abutting property out there. The applicant can speak to this, but they believe they may actually be improving the conditions out there, not just for this site, but for the abutters. They're also looking to put an 8-foot stockade fence along the northerly property line. That was a comment that came out of the last meeting as well. Again, they have to meet the site plan and subdivision criteria. Staff's recommending a similar condition as before, where prior to any building permits being issued, the final subdivision plan be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. Craig is here on behalf of the applicant and Teradyne Consultants.
This one work? Hi, Craig Sweet with Teradyne Consultants here on behalf of the applicants. Thank you, David. Yes, so we're looking to do three multifamily buildings, townhouse style. They're each about 2,100, a little under 2,100 square feet in area. They'll have plantings around the foundations. It's about 350 feet of new access drive going in, which will have new extensions for public water, and there's a hydrant on the site, and then it'll tie into the Auburn Water and Sewer District as well for both water and sewer. The proposed wetland is kind of up in the upper parking lot there. It's 1,900 square feet to fill. And then, as David mentioned, along the northern property line where that fence is, we're also proposing to do a filter strip, which is stone and wrapped in perforated pipe. So, and that's set just a few inches below the existing grade. So anything that would normally from the neighboring properties flow on or vice versa, it's going to go into there and be, there's a swale. If you go to the next page there. So there's a swale, so they'll all tie into that swale, which goes out to the back of the site to a level up spreader and forested buffer for stormwater treatment. So everything will be collected from the roadways internally and via catch basins out to that swale, and then the parking lots will be drained to those swales. So everything's going to that swale in the back, and it's going to be taking some excess water that's coming probably from, it's very flat out there, so water kind of flows, would pool where that wetland was. So with that being gone, and the filter strip there, it's going to improve drainage all around. And then we're providing 25 parking spaces, which is more than 2 per space. I mean, one more, but it's more just for guests of residents. They're each 2-bedroom townhouses, and the existing lot 1 was separated out earlier this year, which currently has a driveway entrance onto Poland Road, which will come off of the new access drive to help eliminate the curb cuts as well. And if you go up a couple slides, we just have the renderings. Yeah. Show the. It's like 3 or 4 up. There you go. And these were updated ones that were provided in the response to comments, kind of showing the frontage. So the stoops are going to all be facing towards the access drive to meet the intents of the T4.2 off the access drive as much as possible in that regard. backyard. We'll have back doors and the 8-foot fence in the back to help have some privacy from the neighbors as well. So, yeah, happy to answer any questions as well.
So regarding the drainage swales, that's a change from when we saw you the first time, correct? Because if I remember correctly, the public, overwhelming concern of the public was the pooling of snow melt and rainwater, and that will address it on your property.
Yeah, and it would address it on this property, and then if anything flows from the other properties towards the back, it'll all go that swale, and it wouldn't flow onto the parking lots from on this property as well. So it would, if anything drains off their sites, it would help drainage on their sites as well.
So at the very least, your property won't affect others.
Correct.
At the very best, it may help others drain.
Correct, yes.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Are these all rental units?
Yes, they're all going to be rentals. And the existing home there is currently a rental as well, which is being rented right now.
Can we see an elevation of the rear of the buildings?
We didn't have one in there, just the front. I don't have one with me, but
I don't believe you have one, right, Craig?
we don't have one in there, just the front. Well, there's going to be sliding glass. There's going to be sliding doors in the back with a little patio. It's going to be very similar to the front, just door, patio, and some windows on the second floor. But we only had the front. All right.
No, I was
Yeah.
just looking for the,
Oh, it's in the response. It's above that, yeah.
I'm driving myself nuts right now.
Right there. Yeah.
Can we assume that the rear is going to have the same roof line with the same pitches?
Yeah.
I have another question. Is your client here?
No, they're not here tonight.
So the evidence of financial capacity, which is a requirement under the subdivision ordinance,
Yes.
what we've been given is a letter that reads, "This letter confirms that Jonah Chappelle has a business banking relationship with Skowhegan Savings Bank that is in good standing." That doesn't tell me anything at all. That could be $50 in a savings account. I mean, that's not evidence of financial capacity to carry out a project.
We also had from Kyle as well. I don't remember what the exact list says, but
Yeah. The one for Kyle says, "This letter is provided to verify that Kyle Romick does business with Key Bank and is in good standing." That's not evidence of financial capacity.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? Thank you. Okay, at this time, I would seek a motion to open up public comment.
So move.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, if you're a member of the public, and I'm assuming you raised your hand. We just made a motion. So if you're a member of the public, you'd like to come forward, come to the podium. You have 5 minutes, state your name and address.
Stephen Levac, 5 Rock Hill Ave. Can you bring the page down to the whole? Yeah, that's good. All right.
Use that mic. Thank you.
All right.
It's as much for the recording as it is for anything.
That's my house right here, my property line. From my line to the street they want to put there, I don't know how wide this building's gonna be. There's no way, there's no room, unless they put it right on the line. And where is the driveway gonna be? That looks way bigger than it actually is. I don't know who measured that, but this right now, that's a business there now. They're renting out a construction business. But to have a building there, I don't know how they're gonna do it. And that dumpster is still there. I don't want that in back of my house. And the drainage, if my property gets worse, who's responsible for that? They are? Because that's a flood zone. That's very wet. So I don't know what their plans are. That building, I don't know how they're gonna make it fit there. I mean, I'm sure they have to have so many feet in front of the building and back of the building all around. It's not all. So anyway, that's my main concern. I just don't want all those houses to flood even more than it's already flooding right now. And the snow removal, where are they gonna push it? In that NIO? Not in this area, alongside the fence? And the fence, we discussed that the last time. We wanted an 8-foot fence, not a 5-foot. It is 8? Because I'm going blind. Okay. Well, it's the 8-foot, but my main concern is the water and this building right here. I don't know how they're gonna make that.
Any other members of the public like to come forward?
I'm Kelly Levac, 5 Rock Hill Ave. What is the distance between the bottom square of our property, that's our garage, to their property line? Because on this, it looks really wide, when actually it's not that wide.
Yeah, know what we can do, because you have 5 minutes to do your public comment, so we're taking notes. We'll take your notes, we'll listen to your comment, and then we'll address the staff taking your comments, so.
Okay, yep.
Yep.
So that was one concern I had, and I guess that's the only one I had, because my husband said the rest. So.
Sure, okay.
Thank you.
Yep, I think he said that one too, so. Any other members of the public like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, closing public comment. So there were some questions, some concerns. There were some questions from the public, so I don't know if someone wants to kind of run with them. I think one of them was the distance. I think you, David, you were looking at that.
You folks are 5 Rock Hill, correct? Yeah. So I don't. Let's try this. So folks need to remember the GIS is not a survey. It's the city's best guess. So based upon this, their garage may be 48 feet to the property line.
So,
And then as far as there was a question, and Craig may need to speak to this more than I can, but I'll just point out on the plan here, you'll see, boy, I wish I had a mouse. the dashed line up there. The dash.
Yeah, it
Whatever.
doesn't.
I don't know if this works or not. 5 foot. So that's a 5
5
foot
feet,
setback.
okay.
So if that's 5 feet, I'm guessing, I'm not sure, Craig.
Hey, David, which side of the building is considered the front?
For purposes of the Fort Myers Code, you can measure your setback off of where the shared access is. So this is the front, this is the front. We have a building.
Oh, right. So the rear setback is a minimum of 10, and you said it was more than that, right?
Yes, but that's not a rear setback that I just pointed out. This is a side property line. So even though this is the front, not even sure. I would argue probably the rear is probably that way, all the way along the railroad tracks. I'm not sure if we have an image of that or not.
And then the sides are only 5 feet setbacks, so whatever you want to call the side or the rear or the, by ordinance requirements.
Thank you, Paul.
I have may I follow? So a couple of questions about the frontage of the lot proposed to be developed. You just had up the city's GIS, and I couldn't read it carefully, but it looked like it said 47 feet or so of frontage.
It's both this lot and the lot next door. This is, you guys can't see that, can you?
So a total of about 94 feet of frontage, not 5 feet. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't see.
Like 137 off that. I don't know the exact.
Oh, okay. Why did you locate the dumpsters? And is there any other spot where they might be away from the abutter's home?
They're there because when you have the L-shaped parking lot, that becomes a dead zone, and it's straight back for where any truck would come in and out. And then the other side, the parking lot is it's much closer to the southerly property line, and there's swales we have running along the whole edge to collect the storm water. So that zone became, it was, in terms of a site navigation and the layout of this site internally, it was the optimal spot. And it has the full enclosure, and then there's an 8-foot fence around it, and we even put a tree next to it to try and shield it a little bit additional from the neighbor on that side.
So it's got fencing immediately around it.
Yeah, it's got the
And then it has a
standard-
tree and then an 8-foot
Yeah,
fence behind it,
I
right?
believe it's 7 foot around the dumpster, but I'd have to confirm it's 6 or
Right.
7 foot around the dumpster, the standard, and then 8-foot fence around the
Like
property
the-
line, and then a tree adjacent to it.
Yeah, like chain link with vinyl slats kind of thing?
It's I
Or,
think it's wood, but I don't
Okay.
remember off the top of my head, but it's privacy fence for both of them. It's going to be.
Where do you intend to store snow on the property?
So snow can be pushed straight back on the road because the swale kind of starts. The snow can be stored along, straight back, and if it's in the swale, or right in front of the swale, you don't want it in the swale, but it'll help drain back that way, and then the whole site's gonna be pitched towards that swale. So at the end of the parking lot there, and then adjacent to building 2 would be a good spot next to the swale. So as it drains, it just goes right into the swale. And then it's the access drive will be curbed all the way back, so you can't just come in and, you wouldn't want to trip up your curbs. So they're going to want to push it towards the end where it's not curbed.
Maybe explain to me, again, I'm looking at the swales,
Sure.
but the dumpster, why is it not all the way back, almost right towards the swale where the truck could come straight in? Still have room to,
I'm not sure I'm following the question.
turn.
Are you talking about right here?
Nope, come straight in the drive itself, straight towards the two swales coming together.
Oh, at the end of the access drive?
Yep.
Um,
I'm assuming you're going to have to do some recontouring.
a little bit
To-
there.
So if the swales were moved back a little bit, could there not be a space for a dumpster for the truck to come straight in the access road and not interfere in either of the parking areas?
The road does pitch all the way down that way. We'd have to regrade, it would cause a lot of grading on the road to change, because then you'd have your entire stormwater running into the dumpster enclosure as it runs straight back, because it's been designed to run towards the swale. So if we put the dumpster there, it would just be, heavy rain events should be just flowing right at your dumpster. Whereas it's at a higher spot up there and tucked away where it won't have the entire stormwater flow directed right at it. So it would kind of prohibit, I wouldn't want to put the dumpster down grading it with all the stormwater of the site. But that's not good for maintenance of that.
All right, any other questions, comments?
Question. Like, are the plans for the swale in, like, the plans that you provided with us?
They're just detailed on the grading plan there.
Okay.
So those would be the contours of the swale. It's a 1.5 to 2 foot deep swale. Some areas as it gets towards the back, it gets about 3 feet deep. 2.5 as it gets towards the back, and the grades change a little bit because you have to get down to the lower half where I think it's 5 foot drop from there to the level spreader.
Actually going back to the original plan that came to the planning department first, and then, of course, you had some thoughts of changing the plan. You requested more time to work with it. And I guess as I look at it, was it just an economic, you needed more units to make the project viable?
No, they just decided to move away from the lots aspect of it. And they felt that this would be a good add into the site in the area. Since it's tucked back off of Poland Road, it would be kind of its own little community there.
But trying to get that third building in, it's made it more crowded.
If I remember correctly, the building kind of location in the front there is very similar to the property lines as it was before. I think it's just we wanted to add another. Felt it fit in there with the layout and the neighborhood, and would give good opportunity for private more rental units in the area.
All right, any other questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, I would entertain a motion.
I need to be aware of how I word this. I make a motion that the proposal does not meet our requirements, citing page 4 of our development review checklist, specifically technical and financial capacity. I'm not convinced, given the letters of information from KeyBank and Skowhegan Savings, that the applicants have the financial ability, as these letters are written, to carry through the project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, do you have any discussion of the motion?
If the board's interested, and I would maybe look towards the applicant here, versus denying it. I'm wondering if either there's a condition and/or you folks continue it to have the applicant provide the opportunity, give them the opportunity to come back with sufficient evidence of financial capacity.
That seems
Not
reasonable.
approving it will,
Sure.
if they're able to do that, and not approving it, they would have to actually resubmit the whole application and go through the whole process again.
I'll amend my motion to include that it be postponed until they can provide adequate financial information.
Do we need, do we need a vote on the first motion before he amends it?
If somebody wants to make I don't know who seconded it, if they're willing to do a friendly
Ed
amendment to
seconded
that.
it.
I will make the friendly, I will second that friendly amendment to the motion.
Are we good?
My thought is, do you folks want to postpone that to the next meeting, like a date certain? That would be my suggestion, to postpone to the next meeting. My thought is, and certainly the applicant should be speaking to this, but if they can't do it in the next 30 days, you know.
Yes, so our December meeting, date certain.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a motion with a condition and a second. Staff, do you feel comfortable if we move forward without any further discussion? Any further questions?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right, so all those in favor? All right, motion carries. Okay, next item on the agenda is a public hearing site plan subdivision review, Danville Quarter Road. So I'll hand it to staff.
I only have 600 pages to navigate through. So. I've gone too far. Well,
Can you search, David?
that's thinking. So while that's thinking, I'm going to talk. Again, Teradyne Consultants, on behalf of Timothy Miller, has submitted an application for housing development consisting of 69 single-family homes, 3 multifamily buildings with 8 units each, and an accessory 5,000 square foot warehouse on Danville Corner Road. This area consists of 2 parcels consisting of approximately 15.2 acres. Access will be provided by private roads. The final development will result in 2 lots. Single-family homes will be conveyed while the remaining land and infrastructure will be retained by the applicant. This property is located in the general business district, which allows residential uses permitted by the multifamily suburban district. Multifamily suburban district permits single-family detached and multifamily dwellings. The minimum lot width and depth requirements and density requirements of the multifamily district also apply. This lot will be split. Lot 1 will consist of 0.9 acres. That's the recently approved 4-unit multifamily that was currently previously the Spurwing School. You folks just approved that a couple meetings ago. And then Lot 2 will be the remaining 93 units. Based on 93 total units, the minimum lot area required is 4.45 acres. With 14.2 acres, the lot could support up to 241 units under the maximum density allowed of 17 units per acre. This project meets all the dimensional requirements of the general business multifamily suburban district. couple things to highlight is that access will be provided from Danville Corner Road via approximately 2,800 feet of private roads and sidewalks designed to city standards. The project will be serviced by public water and sewer. Easements have been shown on the approved plan, and they must be granted to the water and sewer district prior to activation of the mains. They've provided a preliminary traffic analysis that's showing 8:58 a.m. peak hour and 77 peak hour trips. And then on the weekend, 73 a.m. peak hour and 66 p.m. peak hour trips. That doesn't trigger the traffic movement permit. That's 100 trips in a peak hour. However, we have asked that they do more in-depth traffic impact analysis in accordance with the ordinance to look at travel demand, system capacity, any other necessary improvements. The city can waive a traffic analysis. The city may waive traffic analysis requirements if a qualified engineer shows that they are unnecessary. The applicant has indicated that they'll provide this additional information upon submittal of a final application. There's a large stormwater gravel wetland on the east side of the property that will take care of stormwater from DEP and city requirements. And subdivisions with single-family dwellings must meet open space and recreation requirements. Approximately 65% of the site will remain open space. For the 69 single-family homes, 7.7 acres of open space is required. There's approximately 9.4 acres that are being provided. Under additional items, this is a slightly different review process than the board might be familiar with. This development is being reviewed as a major subdivision. Being a major subdivision, the code requires a 2-meeting process, which differs from past practice, where subdivision approval was completed in 1 meeting utilizing site plan standards. This is allowed by state statute if a municipality adopts this provision. Auburn hasn't formally adopted a 1-meeting process and has been advised that until an amendment is made, major subdivisions are subject to preliminary and final review process. Therefore, major projects are subject to, or I should say major subdivisions are subject to preliminary and final review. And I will continue reading just because it is different. The planning board reviews preliminary plans at a public hearing, sets any conditions for the final plan, and grants preliminary approval as a guide. However, the final plan of approval is separate and may require additional changes or another hearing. The board may, by majority vote, determine whether a public hearing is necessary for a final plan. The subdivider must submit the final subdivision plan within 6 months of the preliminary approval. 1 6-month extension may be granted for good cause if requested in writing at least 30 days prior to. So you're going to see tonight that the recommended motion includes making a preliminary approval. And with that, the applicant would then have 6 months to come back with the final plans addressing any conditions or concerns that you folks may have. My guess is most applicants are going to want to come back at the next meeting because people are anxious to start development and have their projects move forward. As with all the other subdivisions this evening, it's subject to the site plan review criteria and the subdivision review criteria. Staff is recommending several conditions. One, again, that the final plan must be recorded at the Registry of Deeds prior to the issuance of any building permits. 2, that water and sewer easements must be granted to the Auburn Water and Sewer District prior to the activation of the mains. And 3, a traffic impact analysis must be submitted to assess systems impact and identify improvements necessary to maintain acceptable levels of service. The applicant is aware of that and anticipates coming back at the next meeting with that additional information. Again, Craig is here from Teradyne to speak to specifics, and I am going to try to find the plan to pull up on the screen for you folks.
Hi, me again. So I think a large portion of you guys had seen this last year in a different form with the original just first loop, and I think it was 48 units. The applicant has since purchased the neighboring unit, which you did see for the spur conversion, and is looking to expand the the proposed development of the single-family homes in that area. The loop from when you guys last saw it is largely the same. I know there was another iteration with duplexes, but it's back to the single family. He really likes the single family. He thinks he's done it in before, he said, and has had good experience getting young first-time home buyers or people looking to downsize can able to easily afford a home without having to, it cuts down some of the costs without the land. We had a sample of the land lease agreement in there, and his attorney will be able to come at the next meeting to speak about it. He was unable to come this meeting, but if there's any questions, I can relay to them, and then he can come speak about that at the next time we're in front of you. The original phase was about 1,400 feet of road over what's now South Grove Circle. Those homes are the same style that was presented last time, and he has a second style on what is now on Grayson Lane, which those ones have garages. And an example of that was also included in the packet. He's going to be building them and then selling the units. There's going to be no real custom work with people buying the homes. He's just building the two specs and going to be selling those. Proposing a 5,000 square foot warehouse for his use, and then 3 multifamily buildings with associated parking on those. All the units will be served by water and sewer, which will tie into the Auburn Water and Sewer District, and easements will be shown. It'll all go towards a pump station in the back of the site, and then pumped out into an existing stubbed connection along Danville Corner Road. And then all of the stormwater on site will be collected via catch basin system and back into a large gravel wetland at the rear of the site. Similar to last time, the wetland just larger now to accommodate the additional flows from stormwater. There's pockets of common space. There's a trail in between the center circle. We're looking to maybe put another one next to the warehouse where behind units 53 and 54 will tie back into the sidewalk system for residents to walk on there. And there's sidewalks as well, all designed to city standards. As David mentioned, we're working on some additional traffic, which we'll provide in our next submission to address some of those concerns. And then, let's see. I think that covers everything on a high level for me, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Well, the apartments will be 2-story, 4 units per floor, and associated parking for those. And then, all homes, driveways are sized for at least 2 cars, and then the homes on Grace Lane will also have a garage, which will help with some additional parking and storage.
All right, any questions for the applicant?
I'm confused about the ownership and about the applicant. You've identified Timothy Millett as the applicant, but I don't see his name on any deed.
Those are, he owns those corporations there. I can provide some good standing for those. And then it's going to be similar to, not quite, but similar to how a mobile home park would work with the land lease. I believe it was $450 in there for a lease of the land underneath the home. So it's largely, if you go to a mobile home park, you have a lot, and then you lease the land and you buy your mobile home. This is going to be a regular home, stick-built home on kind of the same concept. He's done it before. He said it works really well for him, but he's going to maintain ownership of the rest. He's going to do snow removal on the driveways. He's going to do maintenance around it, but they own the units themselves. It's kind of like a mix between like a condo and an apartment, but not apartment, the mobile home thing. But they're responsible for like shoveling their sidewalk to their driveway, but they'll plow the driveway. They can maintain the landscaping around it if they want, and
That's fine.
Yeah.
So you, I'm sure that maybe Mr. Millet could come to the meeting, or his attorney can speak to this, but individuals are going to own these homes. They could be mobile homes. There could be 69 single wides out there, right?
He's going to be building, they're going to be stick-built homes, what he's building out there.
They don't have to be.
That's what he's proposing to do that. That's what he's got the 2 designs that he wants to do that we've designed to fit in there. So anything else would have to be run kind of through us to even see if it fits. And we'd have to bring it probably to staff to make sure. But
And you say he's done this before?
yes,
Do you know where?
So are you questioning the applicant? I'm confused. This is the first, Ed, I've seen you kind of question the applicant when he's not here and he's got his, I'm confused with your line of questioning.
Well, he's the applicant's representative.
Correct.
And he's
Yeah.
indicated that if we have questions for the applicant's attorney, he would take them back to him. I'm seeing that as an opportunity. Otherwise, when am I going to get my questions answered if I don't ask them now?
No, I'm just questioning your line of question, but keep going.
Very good.
Excuse me, were some of those directed towards the attorney, just so I can make sure I mark that down for them?
Well, I'll have some questions for the attorney about the land lease. I'm not sure why we have it in our packet at all, but I did have some questions if he's coming to talk about it.
Yeah, he'll be here.
So I don't know if any open space is required, but you're indicating that on page 3, that areas outside the building and roadways will be available for open space. So wherever there's not a building or a road, anybody can walk around on wherever they want to,
Correct, that's the intent. Yeah.
between buildings and houses and,
Yeah.
all right. And the parcel, about the 15 acres or so, is a combination of the 2 deeds that we have in our packet?
Yes, it would be a combination of the 2 deeds, yep.
Okay. Let me ask about the Plan C21. Grading and drainage.
Sure.
So, with respect to that particular plan, I'm having a little trouble, like, looking at Unit 14. It looks like it's, are you planning to add a lot of fill in those areas where the building site seems to straddle, or go deeply into what appears to be a pretty steep ravine?
There'll be a little bit of fill on 14, well, there'll be some fill on 14 and along the curve, yes, yep. Those, yes.
It'll take me a while.
I have a question in the meantime. I'm looking at the land lease, section 15, termination of lease. It seems to give the landlord pretty broad termination rights. These are homes, stick-built homes that are being purchased and the landlord terminates for failure to pay ground rent. What is the homeowner supposed to do with their stick-built house that is no longer allowed to occupy the land?
I will have to mark that down and have the attorney answer that one for you.
Maybe just a follow-up on looking at that page C 2.1. Are these foundation, built upon a foundation or on slab?
Most of them will be on a slab. We're on the ones on the end, we'll want a foundation on those, but most of them, majority of them will be on a slab.
So the ones that were just referenced are particularly 14 was, but then 15, 16, 17, 32, 33 would all require a foundation.
Those would need a foundation, yeah. You wouldn't want to do a slab on that. You'd want a foundation. We might see, we're working on iteration that you might see in the final, a slight change, maybe have like a walkout basement if that one, with a foundation. So pull the grades back a little bit at the base. But no wholesale changes, just maybe a minor change there. But
I guess it would be helpful for me to see an aerial view of this parcel, at least, of the two parcels in
Sure.
relation to Washington Street and to the lighting project that's a state project upcoming next year.
To which project, Bob, that you're talking about next year?
This is just above the blinking lights now.
Oh, you're talking about the traffic signal? Okay, yeah, sorry.
so they are,
Washington Street's where? Okay, where's the light? So how much, what's the footage? What's the distance between that light and the three driveways?
I don't know that distance off the top of my head.
Nope. Which three driveways are you talking about? Of this development?
Yes.
Okay. And clearly this is rough, right? Somewhere in here is where the driveway is,
A little bit, yeah, a little bit closer to Spurwink, but right about there.
so 1,700 feet.
Close to half a mile. A little less.
Could I follow up on that question, since we're talking about the Washington Street intersection, which I think is a matter of general concern? I'm not sure why your traffic report or analysis wasn't part of this application now, but I trust that when you do submit one, you'll give us a sense of the number of cars that will exit this property and go toward Washington Street as opposed to the other direction.
Yep.
Because it's pretty tough to queue up there on Washington Street, because you need to be have a llama to get up over that hill, just off Washington Street up the old Danville Road. It's very steep. So one other question about the land lease, since you presented it to us. I guess I'd wonder, you could ask the attorney why under Section 8C, the tenant agrees not to damage the premises, the building, or grounds. If the tenant owns the building, I think he's got every right to kick in his front door if he wants to. Not really sure why that's there. And the last sentence on that page, which is page 3 of 12, just doesn't make sense. That begins, tenant may park, and the sentence itself doesn't make sense.
Okay. I noted that for him.
Which one doesn't make sense, Ed?
The sentence that begins at the bottom of page 3 reads, tenant may park no private automobiles or motorcycles other such motor vehicles as landlord shall approve in parking area designated by landlord. I think there's either a not that needs to be in there, or
We're just giving you time to write.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm good.
I didn't want to throw anything else at you before you were
I appreciate
ready.
that.
Any other questions, comments?
I have another question that is also a comment. I'm looking at section 8G, and overall, this does read like a rental agreement, like you were renting a residential property, and I'm wondering why, if someone is purchasing a home, presumably they're going to be selling it to another purchaser and not turning it back over to the landlord. I'm not sure why the landlord would require it to be cleaned prior to their vacating unless it's being turned back over to the landlord. Looks to me like somebody took a residential lease and is trying to apply it to a home that they're trying to sell to somebody. So I'd like some clarification from the attorney what the actual intent is here.
Sure, of course.
I want to echo the same thing. These leases read like apartment leases or renting a condo or condo bylaws. And I mean, I'm very confused as to exactly what this is and how, and just the leases themselves, like Maureen said, read like rentals.
I'll relay that. Thank you.
Do we know what the purpose of the warehouse is?
He has a lot of businesses in town. He wants to store some of his stuff inside the warehouse for some of his businesses and access it when he needs it, kind of stuff.
So it isn't really related to the development?
No, it's just for his use.
Got it.
I assume he'd keep some lawnmowers in there for the development of maintenance people, but primarily it's for, he's got a bunch of businesses in town. He's going to store some stuff.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to open up public comment.
Thank you.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Public comment is open. Please come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Stephen Beal, 575 Johnson Road and 93A Shepley Street. I travel along this road very frequently, daily. I've been by there 3 times today. I don't have any issue with the business plan of the developer or the economics, but I do have some concerns about what are called in Maine buildings on land of another, which is a whole special category of status. And again, without regard to the business aspects of it, I am concerned about the enforceability of such things as municipal tax liens, Auburn Sewer District liens, and I'm also concerned about the very extensive pattern of private roadways, which seems to be much larger than any other private road system that I'm aware of in the city. I think the board might want to consult with corporate counsel on some of these points because there's a whole host of issues that arise when you create buildings that are owned by one entity or individual and the land on which the building sits or into which the building is placed, in the case of those buildings that have foundations, is owned by another party. Ms. Hopkins and Mr. Bureau have alluded to some of those issues. The other issue that I would like to bring up is the traffic situation on Danville Corner Road. Mr. Hayes has made reference to the fact that there's a traffic light problem and study underway. The public comment period by the Maine Department of Transportation on that Danville Corner Road, Beach Hill Road, Washington Street light has just concluded. I've had extensive communications with Mr. Michael LaBerge, who's the MDOT official in charge of this project. A number of suggestions have been made for changes to that traffic pattern. My understanding, however, is that all of those, all the pieces of information that have been received and the proposals that are likely to be forthcoming from MDOT have no reference at all to the additional traffic load that's going to be placed on this road system by this proposed development, and I think that needs to be addressed definitely. I did not raise it to Mr. LaBerge because it was not yet a reality, but if it's going to be a reality in some fashion, this is a very, very substantial increase in what is already a very bad traffic situation at that light. So I encourage the city to engage with MDOT on these very substantial traffic issues. I have no statistics, but my belief is that probably 90% of the traffic that comes out onto Danville Corner Road from this development will turn right and go down toward Washington Street, whereas only 10% will turn left and go to Danville Corner, and then either in town on the old Danville Road or out toward Danville itself on the old Danville Road. So there's going to be a huge new traffic load on that light system. Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward?
Yes, hi, my name is Dan Moreno. I live at 41 Presidential Way in a Buford McFarland development that's not too far from this. I'm an architect. I work for Platt Associates. I'm not involved in this project at all, but I'm a huge proponent for affordable housing. And I will just say that I think part of the discussion you're having about lots and sizes speaks to changing your zoning to allow smaller lots to be sold in this economic times. Might be something to look at, but my real concern is Danville Corner Road and Washington Ave, because there's a lot of traffic, and unlike the gentleman was saying, most of the traffic going in town, just to give you a little heads up of thought process here, I can go to Shaw's in Lewiston in half the time it takes me to go to the Shaw's in Auburn or in town, and I can go to Portland a lot quicker, and frankly, this is a great project for people for Portland to come here, and I really think you need to talk to MDOT about the surge of traffic coming into town, because I think the original design they had planned, they weren't planning to use a shoulder, and my 21-year-old daughter and I got into an argument because I was telling her that you have to veer off onto the shoulder because people don't expect you to stop in the middle lane. And there's a lot of traffic there. And I think part of this development, you really need to let them know that this is not the first part. I think I said it the last time. If you build it, they will come, more projects will come. And I just think you really need to address Danville Corner Road, because that incline going up that road over the trestle, or the trestle over the train tracks, it's really steep. It really bottlenecks everyone coming off of Washington Ave on. And then there's the cross traffic across technically 6 lanes of traffic from both sides, and not to mention the cross paths. But that's really just my comment on that project. So thank you.
My name's Steve Warren, 241 Danville Corner Road, the only residence across the street from this development. I have a concern about the character of the neighborhood changing so dramatically. This is going to be a huge change to a rural setting, and I'm not opposed to the idea of a development, but the radical change to this neighborhood without any provision for recreation, or I think there's going to be a real problem with what these people, especially if they're families with kids, what they're going to do, because the neighborhood has no provision for walking or any kind of recreation. So I would recommend putting some provision on that this project somehow contribute to a recreational opportunity in the neighborhood, so there isn't a problem with a lot of young people looking for something to do, and the neighborhood not providing that opportunity. That would be my number one concern. I think having such a radical change to the neighborhood requires a lot more thought than has gone into this at this point. But I guess this is going to be a long process. So hopefully more thought goes into it, because I think there will be a lot of issues that come out of it.
Good evening. My name is Susan Lundquist, and I live at 473 Old Danville Road. And my biggest concern is the traffic. You're talking hundreds of cars leaving every morning and coming back every night. They're not all going to go over the trestle. They're going to go in town, and they're going to go out by the junction. And it is very, very rural. The roads are not wide enough. You're going from a very, very rural country roads to basically Washington Street's like a highway. There was actually, and you probably all know, it wasn't that long ago, there were 2 fatalities there, just a few months ago. Prior to that, I would say maybe 3 years ago, before that, there was another fatality. So that's why they put in the light. But there's fatalities because people come, they stop, or they start to go over, people don't look. You can probably going to put in, if they put in stoplights, what is that going to do to the traffic? And how does that back up? And again, to your point, it is going to change the whole character of the neighborhood. And again, to put 44 houses on slabs is basically where they don't own the land. What is their responsibility to take care of all that? Or if they don't, it becomes a glorified trailer park. I'm not against development, but there has to be more to putting hundreds of units in an area that really doesn't have what I think the vehicle capacity to handle. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Anyone else like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, so questions, comments, thoughts?
David, could you pull up the GIS map and probably remove the zoning thing so we can see the land a little better? So with traffic concerns is, of course, if you're going into Auburn, going straight to Washington Street makes the most sense. Is there another way out that people would reasonably use?
It's probably a better question for some of the folks in the audience.
Yeah. I mean, I have a pretty good idea, but I think it would be, especially if you're going to Portland, because making a left turn is...
If you're going to Portland, you might go the back way to come out in front of the mobile gas station.
Yeah.
Further down, but most people won't do that.
It's
Yeah, and I guess what I would say is, and not to cut you off, Paul, but I know that part of staff's recommendation is a traffic impact analysis, so I think we could sit here and surmise potentially, just, you know, from our own anecdotal experiences, but I would rather prefer to have an expert weigh in on it. Sorry.
I guess as a quick reaction, maybe a knee-jerk reaction, if we are to look at the site plan review, the section 60-1277, section 60-1359, even to accept this as the preliminary review, personally, I can't find that that this application, to me, does not meet the requirements of those 2 sections. You know, with respect to surrounding neighborhood, I think the landscaping or the effect of the neighborhood fitting into the neighborhood, certainly what we've already talked about with respect to the traffic and unsafe conditions with respect to particularly that intersection. And even back in section 601277, that still talks about vehicular and pedestrian movement within as well as adjacent areas. So I guess I could not even support approving even this is a preliminary application.
Without a traffic study? Or with the traffic? Like, I feel like I'm trying to figure out what you're trying to say. I think we're all collectively agreeing a traffic study is needed, but you're saying regardless of whether you get one or not, you're not going to do it? I'm confused. I'm trying to follow your train of thought.
I think I'd have to see that traffic study even to consider it as a preliminary.
I would agree with that. I think we're missing that information, and I'm also unclear on the nature of the proposal. The single-family homes will be conveyed. I'm not seeing anything in here that indicates a conveyance. Everything that we're being presented with indicates to me that both the buildings and the land will be leased. So I would need some clarity on that to be able to move forward.
Wait, you said the buildings and the land will be leased?
Correct. Looking at the lease agreement that's been provided to us, it does not indicate a conveyance of a fee ownership
Okay,
of the
gotcha,
actual
gotcha.
building.
I agree with you on that. I do.
I'm a little conflicted with adversely affecting the character of the surrounding neighborhood. Clearly, that's a change for what's generally around there. It is in the general business zone, so pretty much anything you built that would fit in that
Storage units could go
zone,
there.
right, is going to change the character of the neighborhood. So I'm not sure. David, I would like you to address that a little bit. How it seems like it's conflicting, but at the same time, it is the general business zone, so there's many other things that could be built there.
That's true. Basically, general businesses are commercial zoning district. It's the same zoning district that you find on Center Street.
So like a car lot could be there.
A car lot, a big box store, a car wash, a gas station.
Storage units.
I'm guessing storage units, a warehouse, those types of uses out there. So you can have some pretty uses that folks might not think meet the character of the neighborhood if the character is in fact residential. The city chose not to have it zoned residential out there. The map up here on the screen right now, everything in the orange color is that, I guess it's pink up there. It's the general business district, and everything going to the south it becomes some type of residential district. Purple color is the industrial district. So to Paul's point, you can have some pretty intense uses out there. As noted in the comments too, the zoning allows for a lot of density as well. So if a developer could make it happen, they could actually put more dwelling units on this property, given the amount of land that's available. So there's a vision for this area to be something other than what the neighborhood might be used to on other sections of Old Danville Road or Danville Corner.
Just as a follow-up question, under a lot of commercial applications of large developments, we could actually ask for a lot of off-site improvements to support that development. Is that correct?
If it triggered the need for them, absolutely. So off-site improvements typically would be triggered by a traffic movement permit. Traffic movement permit's 100 trips in a peak hour. I don't believe this project is going to trigger a traffic movement permit. I do think it's going to raise concerns. I think some good points were raised tonight as to whether or not DOT is aware of 83 trips or whatever it is in the peak hour potentially coming down to that intersection. So it's information that we need to share, and I think the applicant's going to have to be providing more analysis as well to see what needs to be done. Just because it doesn't trigger a traffic movement permit doesn't mean that off-site improvements might not be welcomed. And in the same breath, a traffic movement permit doesn't necessarily mean off-site improvements are going to occur either. just, it's a threshold where additional review is required on behalf of DOT.
Yeah, and I just want to remind the board, when we make decisions like this, we're making decisions based upon the facts at hand and not any potential outside influences by chatter behind the scenes. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, we're beholden to do the planning board and work with the information that has been given to us versus maybe some outside influences, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
What do you mean by outside influences specifically?
I just want to make sure that we're using the facts at hand and not potentially having conversations outside of the planning board whereby it then influences bringing conversations forward on this.
I would totally agree with it, with outside conversations, but I don't want there to be a perception that we're limited to what we receive in these packages. We're taking
Correct.
public comments, any other information that comes to us at these meetings ought to be considered. And I don't think we have to keep our heads in the sand. If there's an article in the Sun Journal about traffic, and that, we're going to know it, and we're going to have questions about that. But I appreciate what you're saying.
I appreciate that. And I think collectively, as a board, I think we can agree that a traffic study probably does need to be done. Even if you said you don't think it's going to trigger it, I think at least it'll provide evidence and clarity and information and data for us to move forward and not speculate.
What do we, there was a comment about open space and this and that. The applicant makes the statement that there's 7.77 acres available as open space, and I questioned the applicant's representative about that, and that's, if you walk around every house, I guess, it's just, everything except the road and the houses. Is there a portion of the land that is set aside? It looked like it covered nearly the entirety of the parcel. Is there anything set aside?
I guess I would ask the applicant that. I mean, this plan here shows an area in the center that appears to be dedicated with trails, but I believe they're also indicating that all the other area around this can be counted towards that open space requirement.
And can you, I'd love to have the applicant explain, perhaps confirm that what we're saying is accurate, and then could you tell me, maybe my fellow board members know, but what are the open space requirements, David?
Are you asking what they're required to provide or what they actually are?
They're required to provide.
I think I made reference to that somewhere in here. Let's see, For 69 single-family homes, 7.7 acres of open space is required. It's 1 acre for the first 10 units and then 5,000 square feet for each additional unit. And the applicants indicated that approximately 9.4 acres is provided, including a small internal trail network. That's what you see on the plan up there now. So it's that ratio of 1 acre for the first 10 and then 5,000 square feet for each additional unit, which gets us to that 7.7 acres.
So the open space is as described. It's anything that's not a building or paved.
Yeah, I don't think.
I know there's a definition in the ordinance about it, and I believe it's anything outside of a roadway, driveway, and building envelope. Sidewalks, back patios can be included in open space, I believe, is what the provisions in the ordinance state. I know it's the buildings and the roadways. I don't remember if it's driveways off the top of my head, but I do remember reading that patios and any yard areas and sidewalks are included in the open space. I don't have that ordinance in front of me, but that's just from memory. But yes, the proposing the trail system in there, which will be in a wooded area to be kept, and then we're looking to put another one probably next to the warehouse that's there as well. Sorry. I'll say it again because that was far away. we're keeping the tree safe in the middle there with some trails in little wooded area, and then next to the warehouse on the neighboring lot that's being brought into the project is there's another decent sized area of land that we'll likely put a trail system in the next submission packet, and then that'll tie back in to the sidewalk probably near I think it's 54. I can't read it. 34. I'm sorry, it's small from here. By the intersection of the roads.
Well, I don't want to go too far into the weeds. I'm looking at the definition of open space, and it says it means land within or related to a development which is not individually owned. We have one individual owner here. Mr. Millett or his LLC is going to own everything. So it's not land that's in common. It's not land that's otherwise available to others. It's owned by him.
Well, I think I'm not. I believe it also gives stipulations for like a homeowner association, which would be one owner as well. But I'm not an attorney, and I believe it was. There was other areas in there I've read. I don't have it in front of me, obviously, but I can address it in the next. But I can't. I don't have it in front of me to speak to it right now.
May I ask a question of staff, about a procedural question, perhaps I'll ask you. The suggestion in the staff memo is that we would grant preliminary approval and then we would have another hearing, question being whether it would be a public hearing for a final or review, but there's nothing that would prevent us from continuing this preliminary review.
Not at all, not at all.
Would you feel comfortable continuing this preliminary review after you received a traffic study? Okay, that's reasonable. So what I'm hearing, kind of formulating as a motion, is continuing with a traffic study. Is there anything, and then I think you also, we're going to have the attorney here next time as well.
Yeah, I think he wasn't able to come for health reasons but he'll be here next time.
Okay, all right. So front and center is that agreement that.
Yes. Yeah, and I'll relay all the questions you guys had back to the applicant for that.
And I guess if I would to be helpful, maybe providing another draft that reads a little bit better.
Yeah, okay. I'll try and get that from them. And I already talked with the city engineer about the traffic study, so we're already working on that. But.
Do you have a question, Bob?
I guess I'd just add to the traffic study, to be sure we have some communication with the state in writing, is that they recognize now this project and that should be reviewed along with all the other comments that have come in within the deadline, but to make sure that we get some communication back directly from the state with respect to the traffic situation at that particular intersection.
Could I ask staff, not as part of our official motion, but just as a something that might be helpful to us, is if we did have the city attorney weigh in on some of Mr. Beal's questions, specifically, are there any concerns for the city when we're approving this type of arrangement where you have buildings owned by individuals on land owned by another? I'm not familiar enough with that arrangement to really opine on that, but I would love to have an legal opinion on that if there are any concerns for the city.
Do you want to make that like terms of a motion, or it's just an ask? I guess that would be a point of order that I'm not sure about.
Yeah, I'm just asking as something that would be helpful.
To help inform your decision.
I think that's fine. That's similar to what you've asked of Craig. We can do some homework on our side too to come back for the next meeting.
Perfect.
Could you also determine whether the open space definition is met by this proposed scheme?
Sure.
Okay. Paul has a question. We're just waiting for Dave. Not to call you out.
Work.
So I'm not specifically seeing, oh, yes, I am. Okay. So yard requirements is kind of part of the open space, like what's considered, it's pretty clearly defined in here under what open space means, and it's actually stricter than the multifamily one, or it's larger than the one. I don't see anything specifically on that, but it does count any unbuilt space, but it also doesn't include wetlands or stuff that you can't reasonably access. So another place to do homework.
Yeah, what I, again, I'll review the ordinance because we did
Yeah.
bring this to the applicant's attention. What I'm not familiar with is what Ed mentioned as far as the ownership of the open
Correct,
space out there. I need to look into that.
I think all good discussion. A lot of due diligence. So do someone want to make a motion?
And I would suggest with that motion, if it's going the way I think it is, again, to make it for a date certain. That way, for the benefit of the public, they know that they can come back at a certain time.
I would move that we continue review of this matter until our December 2025 meeting.
Second.
Do I have any discussion of the motion? Staff, a point of order, does he need to would you like to specifically call out, the lease items, the traffic study, and the open space questions, or do you think that we're fine?
It's probably a better question for the applicant. I know what I need to do, but I'm not sure if the applicant needs any further clarification.
Okay. Okay. So any discussion of the motion before I proceed? Okay, all those in favor of the motion? Excellent, motion carries. All righty.
And for the benefit of the public, that meeting is December 9th.
All righty, next item on the agenda is a public hearing site plan, another subdivision review, 15 Academy Street. If you didn't, I was going to.
All right, Goro Palmer, on behalf of Auburn Town Apartments LLC, has submitted an application for 53 residential units at 15 Academy Street. Development consists of 2 vacant parcels consisting of 1.43 acres, some of which is used as a parking lot by the Community Little Theater. Access to the site will be from Main Street in coordination with the existing 5-unit townhouse on the corner of Academy Street. The site will consist of a single 3-story building with 53 units, individual ground floor entrances, and stair towers. This site is located in the T42 traditional downtown district, which is a form-based code district, and it allows multifamilies as a matter of right. Projects that must meet specific requirements unless a waiver is granted. Any waiver request from the form-based code standards and requirements must identify which regulation is being requested for the waiver and include a narrative as to how the waiver, if approved, will allow the project to meet the purpose of the form-based code. Initially, the applicant requested several waivers from the T42 district. Upon further review, revisions have been provided and the applicant has met building placement and configuration, building frontages and external elements of the T42 district, with the exception of section 60-549.1. The applicant has requested a waiver of the maximum building width. The code requires the frontage build-out, it's the amount of the building that actually faces the street out there, in this case, Academy Street, shall not exceed 60% of the lot's width. The property is unique in that it is one of the largest parcels in the T42 district, with approximately 300 feet of frontage on Academy. This lot size creates a conflict in the building placement and configuration standards, where the required frontage build-out is 60% minimum, and the maximum building and lot width requirements are 110 and 120 feet. Based on the 300 feet of frontage, meeting the building front-out standards would require a building at least 180 feet long, which conflicts with the 110-foot maximum building width. The proposed building is approximately 76 feet along Academy, exceeding the 110-foot maximum noted in the standards. Although the building has a continuous footprint, it's broken up along Academy in two ways. One, the facade undulations occur along each building module at intervals of 10 to 12 feet, but no greater than 25 feet. And two, building steps occur 8 times along Academy due to finished site grades. These design elements provide an appearance that separates the structure along the facade, supporting the intent of the traditional downtown neighborhood and reinforcing a moderately dense street wall pattern. Staff recommends that any waiver granted by the board be noted as a condition of approval. As with all the other projects tonight, folks are looking at site plan and subdivision review standards. Some things to note. Access is coming from Main Street via a shared driveway and parking area with the existing townhouses on the corner of Main and Academy. Necessary easements and agreements for site reconfiguration and improvements have been negotiated. Final easements will be executed upon site and subdivision approval. The site's expected to generate 415 weekday trips with 30 p.m. peak hour trips. Again, this is a project that goes underneath the DEP threshold. There is one nearby high crash location, Elm and High Street, but that has since had a raised intersection, and that's appeared to reduce incidences. Site distance on Main Street driveway exceeds city and DOT standards, though nearby parking may obstruct views. The report notes that site distance looking left on Main Street, like looking into town, was obstructed by parked vehicles along Main Street. It was determined that without parked vehicle, site distance would exceed the requirements, and the city may want to consider restricting parking in the immediate area of that driveway. Therefore, the board may want to consider a condition that before issuance of a certificate of occupancy, the applicant must coordinate with the city to determine whether parking restrictions on Main Street are necessary. I'll note in addition to that, the parking that was striped out there is now striped differently by DOT. And what DOT had striped and what the city had striped, apparently neither one of them were what was supposed to be striped out there. So in addition to whether or not parking is creating a site distance issue out there, there's just a question as to what and how it should be striped for parking. The applicant has noted that the site proposes 58 on-street parking spaces, including those for the existing 5-unit townhouse. The code requires 73 parking spaces. Required off-street parking in the form-based code may be substituted by public or private parking within 1,000 feet of the principal building as measured along lines of public access. The code does not the code does not allow a waiver for this provision. The applicant is pursuing multiple off-site parking locations including the Community Little Theater and the Village Inn lot. The board may require as a condition of approval that no approved plans be recorded and no permits issued until 15 additional off-street spaces are provided. Again, this is a major subdivision, so this will be a preliminary review similar to the last project that you heard. The applicant has addressed many of the site plan and subdivision criteria, and staff is recommending, should the board grant preliminary approval, to consider A number of conditions, including prior to the issuance of building permits, final subdivision plan be recorded in the registry. No plans be recorded, no permits issued until the applicant demonstrates to the city staff or the planning board, if you folks feel necessary, that 15 additional off-street parking spaces are provided. No plans are recorded until the applicant demonstrates the final easements are all signed and recorded. That the board finds that a waiver from the maximum building width be granted to allow the proposed 76-foot building along Academy Street. That prior to a CO, the applicant must coordinate with the city to determine whether parking restrictions on Main Street are necessary in the immediate vicinity of the driveway. Caleb is here on behalf of Gora Palmer and the applicant.
Hi, good evening. Caleb Barrasso with Goral Palmer, here on behalf of the applicant, Auburn Town Center Apartments, LLC. Just going to give you a brief presentation on the 53-unit market rate apartment building proposed at 15 Academy Street. David did a good job of just kind of covering broad strokes the site scope and a number of items that we've been coordinating with staff on. Just wanted to kind of note, really appreciated the coordination with staff. As was noted in the planner's memo, we had, I think, 4 waivers in our original application. Gotten that now down to 1 with just a few tweaks to the site, so certainly helpful in that respect. On the first slide that you'll see here is a view of the apartment building looking northwest, and in this view you would actually be standing on Main Street. In the next slide I'll show you just for orientation again, if you don't mind, David. So in this view here, you'll be standing there on the plan. North is top of page, south bottom of page. This is just taken from the city's GIS website, so this generally shows the limits of the property boundaries here. There is a small portion that is identified with a lighter red dash line that just identifies the area with the adjacent condominiums that we're working forward, working with those condominium owners on just additional access agreements and utility agreements and the like. There are existing cross-access easements and utility easements there now, just based on the shapes of the lots and the original subdivision for those 2 lots going back several years now. So, if you go back actually just to that rendering. So I just kind of wanted to touch on this, and we can bring this back up when we get into discussion, but I'll just preface it with there's certainly been a lot of time gone into this project here. A lot of thought gone into it. The applicant team here, we're certainly really excited about this project and to get some feedback from you folks this evening. But I think going into the form-based code items here, we're certainly trying to build on the street wall presence here. You can actually see just on the very right-hand side that actually shows the existing townhouses that start at the intersection of Main Street and Academy Street. So really trying to pick up where they left off and bring that street wall up Academy Street here. We think it's a great location with the park across the street, CLT across the street, in this downtown urban environment. So just a lot of access to local, just the local businesses there as well. Great access back to the just adjacent infrastructure for roadways, everything like that. There's certainly a lot of grade across this site, as you'll kind of see on my not so descriptive black and white plans, but this rendering really kind of does it justice. As was noted, there's 8 steps in the building right now. So I think that what goes into and becomes kind of a complexity with our design actually became kind of one of the most unique features of the design. So I think this is a really good looking building in that respect. You'll see at each end on the top left and then bottom right of this building, it's a 3-story building, but there's a section notched out on the Academy Street side for upper level. That would be like a 2nd floor or a 3rd floor terrace, excuse me. In addition to some other interior amenity spaces in there. There's bike storage, I believe dog wash, some other ground floor bathrooms, kayak storage, lots of space there, internal mail rooms. With a lot of these projects now, it's really a lot of amenity based, so really happy that we could provide this in this building scope. I think with that, if you turn it over to next slide here. So this would just be our existing conditions and removals plan. You can see the 15 Academy parcels, the larger parcel, predominantly on the left-hand side of the screen, with the kind of elbow-shaped parcel being the Main Street parcel. We'll still maintain our access from the Main Street parcel and just reestablish that curb cut effectively. We'll maintain access and reestablish parking for the adjacent condominium owners as well, but we'll be removing the curb cut on Academy Street as a result. You can see generally the border or the middle of the site between the two lots in here. We certainly have to deal with some significant grades, as you kind of saw back to the rendering here. So there are elements of just retaining walls around the site. There's the steps in the buildings, and we're making up grades, as you'll see on the parking lot plan, just to set up a kind of a high and a low parking area. But with that, these two lots, they're historically developed, currently vacant, we'll call them. The Main Street parcel actually is the primary access for the existing condominiums. So that's a paved curve cut with some utilities running through it as well. And then generally the upper area is just more or less a gravel lot at this point. I understand that the CLT, when they have events, we allow them access just to park on there now. So if you go to the next slide. So this is the site layout plan showing the building here too. So this is about a 20,800 square foot footprint. Seems like a lot, but I think that with the architecture and what you see in the rendering, there's a lot going on, a lot going on where we're undulating the building face, a lot architecturally with unit balconies. We have individual ground floor access with stoops just going along with the form-based code as well. Additionally, on the back side, there are stoops to those ground level units as well. There are internal stair towers for other folks that live on the upper levels to access as well. Sidewalks going around the building, connecting to the Academy Street frontage, and then additionally to Main Street. So we like that we're generally on the corner of Main Street, Academy Street, very close to the downtown. You have the parks, the river close by. A lot of access for tenants to get in and out just via foot traffic as well as here too. So we think it'd be a great addition in that respect too. What you can see, as I was talking about before, generally the same location for the curb cut on Main Street, actually slightly shifted, just kind of plan south on here, but we're setting up a lower parking area here, which includes the spaces that would be relocated or reestablished for the existing condominiums. Of course, we're maintaining utilities for those folks there, and currently working with those folks in CMP to actually relocate their existing electrical services underground to try and actually get rid of the overhead wires that are along Academy Street, or at least along our frontage. There is a gazebo area for some additional exterior amenity space that would be allowed for access with the condominiums as well, and a ramp system to get up into the site. Obviously, as I mentioned, with a lot of those grades, you'll see we have several sets of stairs coming up through, but the addition of the ramps there at the bottom of the screen, or sorry, to the right-hand side, the bottom of the building, and then there's other ramps to get up into the site, shown just kind of top left of that building there too. You can see where we break the existing drive aisle, and that's more or less where we're steepening our grades so that we can climb back up into the site, try to limit our site retaining walls that we have as well. To that extent, if you flip over to the other slide here, David, we're more or less trying to maintain grades, obviously, to Academy Street. I know within the form-based code, there are requirements for relative grades with the stoops from the finished grade at the street and then getting up into those units. So that actually kind of set how we started to do our grading across the site here too. But you'll see we have several retaining walls like we had talked about. The any of them range from 1 to 7 feet. In reality, there's one that's on the left-hand side at the very end of that building. That retaining wall is in fact really only 1 to 2 feet. And it's really more just kind of to set up a straight face so that we can actually have a little bit more just flat zone off the back of those units there. We have a perimeter fence to all of the properties along the north and the west of us as well. We have another retaining wall that's on the north-hand side of our parking area in the same general range, 1 to 7 feet. And then a couple other smaller retaining walls in between ground level units just to make up grade, and then one additional retaining wall just below the building in between those and the existing condominiums. Site drainage is fairly straightforward here. This is a flat roof that we have. We'll be connecting our roof drainage system into the closed drainage system in the parking area. That all flows down to what you see on this plan is a kind of big gray box with a dash line around it in our lower parking area. Those are just subsurface storage chamber systems. So we're controlling the peak flow as it emanates on site here, and then controlling it as we discharge it into the city storm drain network. And then a short while thereafter, I think even 500-600 feet away, discharges right into the Androscoggin. So with that, if you go to the next slide. This is just the utility plan here, so great access to utilities being downtown. Our water services emanate from Main Street, actually, and we bring those in and then split up into separate domestic and fire services. Down on the south end of the building, we actually come out of the building, turn plan south, and we'll connect our sewer service into the sewer line that is in Academy Street. And then additionally, our power services will emanate from Academy Street as well. I don't think I had any additional slides. I just wanted to kind of touch a couple other items in here. I know David had forwarded along, there was a comment from the abutter that I think is just Plan West, that direct abutter there. As I had mentioned, we have a fence, I believe it's called out as a 6-foot white PVC fence there. In addition to that, I wish I had included them. We might be able to pull them up just with our packet. We have 3 lilac trees that are along that edge of the property as well, just to help with some of the views, just buffering to those folks that are next door there. There is some additional landscaping certainly throughout the site, so if any other folks had comments, and we could pull up that plan and point that to you as well. Just on the parking item, that was one item that we had talked about previously with David. So we're providing 58 spaces on site, which essentially meets the requirement for the actual tenant spaces. I just wanted to make that distinction there, that although it's required that we had the 73 required, really the difference is actually in what would be required by the code for guest spaces. So we're certainly motivated. The applicant has already started to reach out to, I know, CLT and a couple other local off-street sites for parking. So we're going to have, we'll hopefully have some more feedback for you folks on that discussion and how those are going and that those can be secured. I know David had mentioned something in our conditions as well. In addition to that, I'll just note too that we are on Main Street. So there is public on-street supply. I know that doesn't count, but just in general, it would be pretty typical for kind of an urban environment like this in the downtown, that if there are visitors of the building and someone's driving to the site, that they might see an on-street parking space and take that one too. So I think that there's certainly a lot to kind of discuss on that piece if we so choose, but I think we can certainly handle that. We do have the one waiver, and I think David covered that fairly well too, but just wanted to reiterate that I think it came in to be that it was, you know, for our lot being a rather large lot, it didn't quite fit with how the code provision was kind of written there. But that being said, I think that going back to the architecture, the various steps in the building, I think that creates a lot of just differential across that building. And really, one still continues to reinforce that street wall that we're feeling comfortable that that might be a waiverable item from you folks. And last item I know was spoken about in just one of the previous items here too was actually just going to be the financial capacity. I would think, I understand we have kind of a similar letter to how the previous applicant had it. So we're certainly motivated again. We'll try to provide as much information as we can. in our next submissions to you folks. And so I actually can't recall how that application ended, and if they just moved to continue the preliminary plan review, or if that might be something that the board would be open to granting that as a condition, that we provide that prior to the final plan review. Certainly open to that discussion too. With that's the conclusion of my presentation, so I appreciate you hearing me tonight and open up to discussion.
All right, any questions for the applicant?
Just one concerning parking. On the colorful picture we had earlier, there is parking shown along Academy Street. Is that part of the count?
No, it is not. And actually, I really kind of glossed over that piece as we're kind of coordinate that. That's something that the applicant is coordinating with city staff on, is we're showing kind of conceptually what is out in the road as some public improvements. So we certainly saw that there could be opportunity for additional on-street parking that could be included there as well, with some realignment of the curb line, and then an opportunity for street trees if we're removing overhead wires and things like that. So, but no, that's not included in the count. Everything that is on site is what is included.
I was somewhat bothered because it's a two-way street, but yet we had vertical drive-in towards the building, all seemed to be in the wrong direction to the flow of traffic.
Yes, and David actually had noted that came up in, I believe, A001, which is just part of the architectural package. As part of an old rendering, actually circa last year, where we were working with city staff, and it had even envisioned as part of just a larger kind of transportation study with the downtown, potentially that could be a one-way. So that's no longer part of it, but we're certainly still showing this just as a thought and something that the applicant will work with the city staff on. Yep.
I have two questions. Can we either see a visual, or can you tell me how far you are from the parking lot and parking garage here on Main Street?
I wish we were closer. Yep. Yeah, I believe what we found for the standard was that we would be looking to count anything within 1,000 feet, and we had looked at this with David, and I think we're at 1,100 feet technically, so we're close, just not quite there.
That's measured from your building?
From the building, correct.
To what point on this property?
I think it was to the parking garage we were measuring that.
I'm not sure that matters.
Well,
already I'm at
right.
1,200.
Right. So not to the, sorry, not to the parking
before
garage.
you get to the parking lot?
Right, yeah.
Not the garage, the lot.
Right, this is the lot up here, like the surface lot.
Okay.
So if I get to the garage, I mean, now I'm cutting across the parking lot. Point being is it's over.
And we can't measure from the condominiums that are somehow being incorporated into this project rather than from the new building that's being constructed?
Those are separate projects, separate owner.
Aren't they doing something in coordination with them regarding access, shared access way, or parking and things of that nature?
Do you want to speak to
Yeah, I think we're certainly reestablishing the parking, but we're not introducing these as new units. So the construction of those structures is not, obviously they're existing structures, so it's just not part of the application. We really did. We looked at it every which way and tried to get as close as we could, but I just couldn't quite get there. So,
well, what if this board were to say that that's close enough? Accounting, I don't know why that existing building, if its amenities like its parking and all are being incorporated into yours, and they are, right?
Not sure.
Then why can't that be considered the principal building? And if you did, would that knock off enough footage?
can we do that, actually? I mean, I feels a little stretchy.
Yeah, I think we're on the edge because
Yeah.
certainly we have, the applicant has coordinated with those adjacent condominium owners to establish agreements or easements for the restructuring of their area, but nothing associated with the units too. I think it's certainly close, but I wonder maybe if there's something, David, that or some way perhaps that if the board was amenable to it, that we might maybe formally note the distance from our proposed structure to the garage, and if the board was amenable to that, maybe voting or saying that might be acceptable too for use.
I don't think
I
we
don't
can
know
do-
if we can stretch
I
it
don't
that
think we
far.
can do that, but I thought we
Yeah,
might be able
yeah.
to jigger
Yeah.
the building a little bit. Well, okay, tried to help with that one. Let me ask you about this one, because this isn't going to be helpful. Your deed from the city says that under project, grantee shall construct residential housing development consisting of a minimum of 16 market rate apartments, so that's not a problem. I guess I need you to show me where the common space, green space, and adequate parking are. We've talked about parking. Where's the green space and the common space?
The green space and common space would, because these are rental units, of course, it's ultimately the entire lot and all the spaces that are included within that. So, for instance, exterior of the building would be the gazebo area and that adjacent lawn. There is some additional lawn space, one right adjacent to all those ground floor units, but then some space just on the sides of the parking area as well. We just have some landscaping planned within there, and that could also be utilized for snow storage, but nothing else. And then in addition to that, we just had touched upon the top floor terraces that have been kind of planned in for the building too. So that was just our approach and what we're providing for amenities and open space for the tenants.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to open up public comment.
So moved.
All right, do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, if you're a member of the public and you would like to come forward, come to the podium, state your name, your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, members of the board, and Mr. Hediger? Yes. Yes, hi. My name is Ron Russell. I've been a Auburn resident for a long time. Could we have the visual for the the property areas around? I've lived there, been an Auburn taxpayer, been a resident there for over 50 years. We've had 4 generations of our family raised there. I was very impressed with I got excited about it almost, but I must say I have some damp water I'd like to talk about. It's a historical neighborhood. A lot of hysterias right there. You've got across the street from us is the Women's Literary Union. The other side of the street from Academy is the old high school, which maybe some of you attended. I think you have to be quite old to do that, but in any event, there's a lot of history there. Edward Little, I could go on. There's many places. Our house was owned by one of the founders of the town, I think Jacob Roque, started the bank. After that, it was Ralph Lunn, who owned a shoe company, the big place where the barn used to be. After that, it was another notable, Wallace White, who was a senator, was the minority whip in the Senate through the war years, 15 years or so. So there's a lot of history amongst my place. I'm very proud of it. and also the neighborhood. This particular project, if I can take my notes here, I don't want to forget anything. This, like I say, will radically change the neighborhood. You've got 52 units going in. I would say that's probably more than double the whole number of people that are on the block. So it's going to be a big input and a big change. The 52 families and the population will more than double. Traffic is going to increase to, I think, intolerable levels. There's going to be 52 families coming back and forth right behind our houses, right in the center of all of the buildings that are in the town, or in the block area. And this will be all day, all night. There's probably going to be a lot of noise. I know we're not enforcing the noise limits in the town, so the motorcycles coming in and out are going to shake the rafters. The zoning limit seems to, I think you mentioned, was 110 feet. And it's going to be down the block, probably 276 feet, which is 2.5 times the limit. I don't think that's a good idea. I think they're shoehorning in as many pieces of property that they can get revenue for, and while that's a business decision, I don't think it's good for the neighborhood. I think it's going to drastically change it, the look of the neighborhood, and it's got the ability, if these people who are from Florida want to change the perspective. I took a look at the rendering, and it looks beautiful. But during construction, changes occur, could go to vinyl siding. Things like that would make this just an eyesore, I think, and detract from the town. I don't know much about Town and Country. They might be good people, but they are out of state. One of the things that I'm concerned with, I would like to see all of the revenue.
Sorry, sir. Your 5 minutes. Sorry, didn't mean to have that go off. But thank you. We appreciate your time. There's 5 minutes per person, so we appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Gabrielle Russell. I live at 5 Loxley Road in Auburn. I'm here not as an abutter, but my dad just spoke. I grew up on this block, so it's very dear to my heart. And for full disclosure, I'm an architect at Platts Associates, but I've got no working relationship with this project. And I'm not opposed to it at all. I think housing is very needed, and this is a good location for it. Just wanted to express a couple concerns that I had. The primary one being the 276 feet of wall. I think that changes the character of the neighborhood significantly. This residential urban neighborhood that we have, I think it's broken up, between smaller buildings. There's a permeability to the neighborhood, and having such a long wall along Academy Street changes that a lot. Like, the only other building that I can think of that is similar to that is probably the Roque Block, which is in more of a downtown character. So, and then the rendering was quite nice, and I think part of my concern as well is that materials and quality of materials, they really change how a neighborhood feels. And so the way the rendering is showing it, I appreciate that there's brick and stone and painted clapboards, and I think that can be a very successful combination. If that is a requirement that, or if that's part of how this project gets approved and is in character with the neighborhood, I would hate to see that change, because I've seen it on a number of projects where that gets taken out at the last minute because an owner can't afford to do such quality materials. So, and then I also just want to make sure that the light from lighting of the parking lot and everything, that doesn't penetrate onto other people's properties. So just the placement of the light poles is an important feature. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward?
Good evening. My name is John Cleveland. I live at 183 Davis Avenue in Auburn. I've only had a short time to review this, and this is a 375-page submission. In fact, I understand if you print it all out, it weighs 10 pounds for the plan. So you'll excuse me if I don't remember every detail in that plan, but because I'm limited to 5 minutes, I'm only going to speak to 2 items. That doesn't mean I don't have more. First item I'd like to speak to is the parking and access to the facility. As been mentioned here, the requirement is 73 spaces. Currently, I think on the lot is 58, so that means somewhere other than on the lot, they have to find 15 parking places to meet the requirements. There have been some discussion in the application that you could use general street parking that the city has around the block. I would strongly suggest that that not be considered as part of the parking. Somebody might incidentally do it, but that is a very dense area with many multi-story buildings, with many apartments. There's also the community little theater there and the Foss Mansion that the Women's Literary Union runs. They have many activities. The limited parking on the street is really premium. So that really should be available for the general public. And when the city has events, like the Balloon Festival, the Lobster Festival, they block off the street and there's parking all over the neighborhood. So that should really remain as public parking, in no way dedicated to this project whatsoever. I'd also like to talk about the site distance from the entrance. It speaks to it in the application. When you're coming out of that lot, if there's a vehicle parked on the left-hand side, it obstructs the view, and therefore you don't meet the minimum requirement to be able to have sight distance. That's a busy road right there on Main Street, cars coming and going. You really have to consider whether you can allow parking on those corners of that ingress and egress to make sure you have the proper sight distances. The other thing I'd like to mention is, and those of you who are familiar with this, is the distance between Academy Street and Elm Street is relatively short, and it's busy Main Street. Route 136 also goes through there. Just imagine for a minute, with the number of traffic that will be coming out of there, how difficult it will be at times, particularly at the peak travel periods, of even getting out into Main Street, because cars are queued up all the way from the light at Academy all the way to Elm Street and beyond. Really hard to find a way to get in there. Also consider, if you're going north on Main Street, that is towards the downtown, and you want to turn into that space, you're going to have to stop in that travel lane and put your blinker on and wait until the cars going south clear out. What's that going to mean for all the traffic that travels down that way while they queue up behind these waiting, turning traffic? I think that needs to be considered, or you're going to have some real traffic backups in those intersections going forward. Finally, I really think you ought to look at the snow removal. As I took a look at that plan, there were only 3 locations they identified as storage areas for snow. 2 of them are down on the lower level, only 1 is up on the upper level. Can't tell from the drawings when they're adequate, but given the size of the 58-car lot, during the course of the winter, you're going to pile up a lot of snow. And it's important that be out of there because you need all 58 parking places. You can't pile snow up in your parking lot to do this. And I'm not even clear whether the storage areas are also used for any kind of landscaping along the building or not, or any other amenities. You certainly don't want to be piling snow up on top of your amenities to do that. So I think, plus, the driveway that goes up that steep slope from Main Street, and that slope is 6 to 12% grade. That's going to be really important in the wintertime to keep that clear so vehicles can go in and up there in a safe manner. Just a note, public roads cannot be more than 8 degrees grade. So this is a pretty steep grade getting up into that lot, and it needs to be properly maintained constantly
Thank you,
throughout
sir.
the winter.
You're up. You reached your 5 minutes. Sorry. Appreciate it.
Let me just say that the issue with the technical and financial submittal is completely inadequate. And if I had time, I'd speak more to it.
All right, anyone else like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second? All right, all those in favor? Okay, motion carries. I'll open it up to the planning board and have you guys, your thoughts, questions, comments?
I guess one comment, and not just with respect to this project, but I guess I've become somewhat bothered with a development of this type and other larger developments that, for safety's sake, it almost seems like there should be a second egress or entrance. So if one access point becomes plugged, there should be a secondary entrance exit. This project, because it faces, a main street, as far as fire suppression, at least, one whole side would be exposed, it'd be accessible. But it seems to me in the past, we've always kind of thought and kind of recognized that maybe we should have a second exit entrance. And I guess just to continue that a little bit, that question had come to my mind earlier because it really does seem that we're putting a lot of pressure onto Main Street with a short distance to that light. And, I like the project, but it would seem that, and maybe it addresses, the question of the 276 feet versus 110. At least if there was a little reduction in the number of units and allowing for an upper exit that would, especially recognizing that a lot of traffic, I'm, kind of speculating, but assuming that a lot of it's going to be coming out and going up Academy Street, probably looking to get onto Route 4.
I do think that Mr. Cleveland's comments about the backing up of traffic or the possible difficulty making a left-hand turn if you're going north on Main Street probably deserves some consideration. And I know that Goral Palmer's made quite a name for itself in being the leading traffic engineering firm in the state. So I'm trying to skim your report while this is going on. It doesn't look like you've addressed those issues. Do you think that you could next time address what you anticipate the likelihood of the extent of that problem might be, or any other problem that you've heard discussed regarding access to the site? Because I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I realize that might not have made it into the report. I really do recall, because we had completed our traffic review with city staff. I know there was discussion of queuing and the like, but I think that if not, we can certainly try to build upon that for you. I think I just want to note too that, between the two streets, I think there's certainly sufficient capacity for what in the peak hour is 30 additional trips. Onto that, there's obviously, a certain amount of traffic already on the roads. As far as location of, our access, it is an existing location right now for the existing townhouses, granted additional units within that, but we've talked with staff about the site distance issue, and I know that's something that the city is going to be reviewing a bit further, and if that's something that we as the applicant might need to address with the city, then we're happy to, but it seems to me if that were an issue, then we might have to just review whether we remove that space, that on-street parking space. So, but to your point, we'll certainly build on the queuing for you.
I'd like to speak on Ms. Russell's point about the rendering of the complex. Is that the actual rendering that is planned and that we would see if the complex was constructed, or is that just an artist's interpretation subject to change? And your plans state that?
Not on my civil plans, but that's part of the architecture package. I'll stand up here just in case. So, yeah, that's certainly the intention. I'll note that we have on the building development side, we're actually fairly far along, and I know the applicant's going through with his construction loan process. So a pretty thorough package already prepared for the entire building. That's certainly the intent, is to build what's been on the screen. So
I can appreciate her point. That's it's a beautiful rendering, and I've seen it myself. I've seen a project go other than what the original rendering was.
Sure.
And Ms. Russell, I'm sure her point, I know it resonates with me. You can only assume it resonates with others, hoping that if it does pass and it is approved,
certainly,
that what we see in the rendering is what we will see.
Yep, certainly.
To your point, Tim, I don't think it hurts if and when this project is approved to, again, you could place an additional condition on there just to re-emphasize that point, because that is a concern that can easily get lost for the reasons that were stated.
Thank you, Dave.
I also have a question to Ms. Russell's point about lighting. I haven't had the opportunity to read every page in here, but have you provided a lighting plan that will show the lighting at the property lines?
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yep. So, full cutoff fixtures, just a mixture of wall packs, and then perhaps some recessed lighting just at some of those entrances. But then we do have light poles on site, in addition to being, faced obviously away from property lines. There's obviously the grade differential between sites too. So, there certainly won't be any light intrusion on adjacent lots.
Thank you.
Yep.
So, first of all, I just want to say this was like a very comprehensive packet that we had, probably the most comprehensive today. But I guess my concern, and something that stuck with me, is parking. Obviously, in the lot, we've got the 50 or so, around 50 parking lots, which are short of the requirement of 73. I don't know what the requirement is for ADA accessible, and seeing how the property is graded as it is, I wouldn't feel comfortable. I mean, obviously, I feel like you're going to need more ADA. If this ADA, because I think there's only 3 that I spotted in the parking lot, and I just don't feel comfortable if you are required to have more ADA parking to place that on wherever we find those additional 15. So whether it be on the street, whether it be in some of those businesses that you were working with, I'd like to see that in this the parking closest to the property. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah. And then to Mr. Cleveland's point about balancing that public and private interest, obviously the site requirement is going to be an issue, and downtown parking is, downtown parking, because that's what's hot and that's what everybody wants and needs. And so I guess I'd like to see some sort of balance with that in terms of the private interest of having that maximum, meeting that minimum requirement, and then also, having some spaces that are available for the general public.
Do you mind if I respond?
Yeah.
Sure.
Of course.
I wasn't sure if we were going to get another comment. So to your comment on what happens if there's more ADA required, ultimately, the architectural team has reviewed. There are Fair Housing Act laws for how many of the units should be able to accommodate. So what we have planned for the general amount of spaces, it kind of meets that amount. So there's only a certain amount. I can't tell you off the top of my head. I could try to provide that for you for our next round as to how many units can accommodate. But that's what's provided for the time being. I think that in the future, I guess all I can speak to is kind of that minimum requirement for the Fair Housing Act. So there has certainly been a study that goes into all aspects, not just the parking, goes down to even the placement of fixtures and units. But so we're feeling comfortable that the plan provides what would be required, if that's a fair enough statement, and that there might not be, we might understand there might be more demand, but this building meets what would be at least be able to provide for those units. So, but to speak to the parking comment again, I think we're certainly understanding that, parking is a hot commodity, and, we are in the kind of downtown area, which certainly is a benefit to us where, a lot of other public streets might not if you're, a few blocks away. So we're certainly not depending on it. I know there was another comment, we had in our original application, I don't think we had clarified that yet, but we spoke with David about was, we're not going to count the on-street parking. I just wanted to note for the board's mention that there certainly could be a scenario where if there's on-street supply, then that's certainly open to guests to be able to use. We do benefit, though, from some of the adjacent lots. So like I had mentioned, right across the street, we have the CLT. That's kind of like the primary target right now that the applicant is coordinating with those folks, which ultimately, I believe, once they have a kind of give us the nod, kind of goes back to the city since the CLT leases that land from the city. So we've started to review that, have a pretty good understanding, and just need to kind of start to, cross the T's, dot the I's. So I think we're feeling confident that, we certainly benefit from that for a lot like that right across the street. Yep.
All right.
I have a question for David, but he might need help.
Go ahead.
So in order to meet the dimensional requirements, the 110 feet you'd probably have to have 3 buildings. You could do it with 2, but.
Sure, could do it with 2.
But you'd have a lot more open space in the middle, or wherever you decided to put it. I do, and because it's abutting, sort of, not abutting, but right near the T5 too, which would allow a little bit more than this. That permeability word that Ms. Russell used earlier, I'm sure that's part of the restrictions on building size or width. So I am pondering a lot of that and the implications of that. There's no other, like, just for precedent, because T42 is kind of covering some area in the city for allowing it here. And your building is absolutely beautiful. It is appropriately designed for the grade of it's just an awesome rendering there. I just am concerned about giving waivers. This is a big one too.
Sure, understood.
Yeah.
You know, I think if there's anything else that we can talk through with you to that point, I think, you know, obviously we covered the key points being the kind of building, you know, face undulation. There's certainly a lot of fenestration going on, and the grade differential across the lot.
Yep.
You know, we had touched briefly on the potential for, you know, introduction of street trees or other plantings, and I know we do have plantings actually on property as well that are in front of the building and are kind of shown on that rendering too. So, you know, we're trying to create that that level, but you know, any other thoughts or comments you might have, I think we've done a pretty good job and tried to do our best to kind of set ourselves up for that. So.
And the other side of my argument
Sure.
is it is sort of the edge of the neighborhood. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not in the middle of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure for me, the permeability is as big of a deal.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But that is certainly, I liked the word that she used because that is what neighborhoods are in that area anyway.
Yep.
All right, any questions? We have a motion.
I would move that we continue the preliminary review until our December 9th meeting.
Seconded.
Do you have any discussion of the motion? All right, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. Okay, at this point in time, it is 9:18, and we're past the 9 o'clock timeframe. So we have to have a unanimous vote going forward if we want to, you know, continue to move on. I personally would suggest that we move this next item to our December meeting and we move to adjourn, but I welcome other people's thoughts.
I agree with you.
Okay. Do you agree, Ed? Did I hear you?
Man, if this item takes more than 10 minutes, then we've blown it.
And if what?
If this item takes more than 10 minutes, we've blown it. This is a no-brainer, I think, but it's up to the board.
I'm holding you to it, just so you know. All right, so do we need to make a motion that we continue the meeting to only include this one item to not surpass 9:30?
I would move that we continue till 9:30.
Okay, second? Okay, all those in favor? Okay, you got it. You're on the clock.
All right. Government buildings, public safety buildings, they require a special exception from the planning board. Police department's on the 3rd floor, criminal investigations division's up there. 911 is going to move into that space. They need a temporary home until Minot Avenue is completed, which will probably be in a year and a half or more from now. So they need to go over into 95 Main Street. You need a special exception permit. You have to do a community needs analysis. Community needs analysis was acted upon by the council at their last meeting. They agreed that this is a reasonable request. You folks need to act upon it as a special exception to go into that building. Nothing is going to change. It'll have less traffic. It's where community and economic development and general assistance was. If anything, there'll be less traffic over there as a result, because no public will be going over there. Police department's still going to use the parking garage here. No one is going to know it's over there unless you're looking for that division. All the other police services will remain in this building. Eric's here and he can answer any more questions.
Do you guys have any questions for David or Eric? Okay, seeing none, I would seek a motion to open up public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second? All right, all those in favor? If you'd like to come forward on this item, please come forward, go to the podium, state your name. You have 5 minutes, your name and address. Okay, seeing none, I'd seek a motion to close public comment.
So moved.
Do you have a second?
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor? All right, perfect. Any questions for staff or the applicant? Okay, seek a motion.
I got 10 minutes still.
What kind of car do you drive?
I make a motion that the proposal meets the requirements of section 60-1277 and section 60-1336 and approve the application and site plan submitted by the City of Auburn for the temporary use of existing office space to accommodate the Police Department's Criminal Investigation Division at 95 Main Street. The proposed project has met the standards pursuant to Chapter 60, Article 4, Division 14, Form-Based Code, Article 16, Division 2, Site Plan Review, and Division 3, Special Exception.
That was the longest part of this whole thing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, motion carries. Can I seek a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, do you have a
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, perfect.
Thank you, everybody. It's a long meeting. Appreciate it.
A little bit of pressure.
What?
A little bit of pressure. Don't let me stay again.
I wasn't even sure you were here.